Apocalypse, I built the infinite train. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination, so don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author, we are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like, and if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 176 Strange Call. Bang! The strange forms enveloped the entire train. At that moment, the monster seemed to sense the fear within the train. With a shrill roar, it slammed directly into the armored window grille of the Infinity's cockpit. Bang! Strange insects began to rip and tear at the train's steel. Ugh! The giant human-headed spider let out a shrill cry, and the countless pale human arms on its legs trembled wildly, making the side of it tingle. The human-headed spider's immense force slammed directly into the guardrail, sending blood and flesh splattering and emitting a shriek of agony. Lin Xian, unaware of its capabilities, threw himself forward to protect the porthole. At the same moment, Kiki dodged, raising his hand and unleashing a powerful wave of telekinesis, pushing the heavy, spiked guardrail away. The human-headed spider's clawed arms grasped the edge of the train, sparking a shower of sparks. A shrill scream echoed, and even a massive black centipede on the roof tumbled down. Boom! Everyone, fire! In this critical moment, Lin Xian gave the command. With a roar of bang, 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 the crew members in the living car began firing through the firing holes. Bullets rained down on the monster's limbs, sending up a trail of indistinguishable flesh. In Car 5, Dalu stood in front of the automatic door, Gatling gun in hand, ready to fire, while Lin Xian opened the roof platform. Boom, bang, bang. The moment the roof opened, a strange snakehead and a swarm of black insects scurried frantically inside. But at that moment, a pillar of crimson flame shot up into the sky. God! Burn the heavens, evil demons and monsters, make way for me. Boom! Blazing flames erupted from the combat window. The immense pressure differential caused the circular window's flame velocity to double. The flames shot up dozens of meters, instantly incinerating the black insects and surging out a window. The strange snakehead roared and retreated. With a swish, the automatic door opened. The building instantly began to pull the trigger. The motor began to whir. As the light shone on the monstrous limbs bearing their fangs and claws outside the automatic door, the Roarer K-23 Gatling gun truly roared. Beep! Violent jets of metal instantly blasted the slithering tentacles apart. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder. A furry tentacle, resembling a scorpion's tail, frantically reached inside, only to be shattered by the fire from the building. Boom, boom, boom. Countless enraged, bizarre monsters began violently ramming the train cars and the roof. A massive black centipede clung directly to the train car, attempting to gnaw at the side panels. Hundreds of its legs clashed with the armor, making the sound tingle. Lin Xian, standing in the cockpit, felt the train's constant drag and slowing, and his eyes darkened. You like to climb on trains, huh? Perfect. I've got a handle for you. The mechanical heart instantly arrived. The high-voltage electric knives on either side of the Infinity rose to life, their motors revving. A faint whirring of electricity emanated from the silver blades, which then glowed with a flood of arcs. Swoosh! As the 200-meter-long electric blades rose, the countless unspeakable creatures clinging to the side of the train let out a violent scream. Their limbs snapped, their centipede bellies ripped open, and they tumbled screaming over the track guardrail. Meanwhile, the Infinity finally picked up speed. The explosion in Car 5, caused by Lin Xian, sent flames crashing onto the roof, spreading to both sides. From a distance, the entire roof of the train was ablaze, crackling with the rapidity of the onrush. Get out of the way. Kiki, put out the fire. The train picked up speed, but the roof was still ablaze. Lin Xian was worried that the flames would spread through the armor and onto the cars, so he immediately ordered Kiki to clean up the flames and the creatures from the roof. Okay, bang, 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 bang. Kiki quickly flew towards the car behind, continuously sending telekinetic shockwaves towards the roof, instantly sending the flames flying, along with the charred remains of the creatures. Squeak! Sharp howls echoed as the strange creatures began their frantic pursuit of the train. From the darkness of the forest, a swarm of black insects emerged, crawling towards the tracks. How could there be so many monsters? Is it really the herd effect? Chen Sixuan frowned in disbelief as she watched the unknown black insects continuously emerge from the forest on both sides of the road beneath the headlights. Lin Xian's expression was also heavy. Whether it was the herd effect or the dark tide from the triple star abyss, the situation told him that the night was even more dangerous than before. The endless stream of monsters seemed to have set their sights on them, constantly emerging from the dark forest. They had thought that with more daylight, the survivors' safety and survival rate would be greatly improved, but who knew the dangers of darkness would be exponentially increased. Just now, the entire train was covered in strange creatures. The thought of it made their scalp tingle. From the deep forest, trembling roars continued to echo. The train was moving at high speed, and Lin Xian didn't dare to be careless at all. Bang! 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 Fierce clashing sounds echoed continuously against the armored exteriors of the train cars. Because of the armor's electric blades, no monsters could climb aboard, but smaller black insects were able to scramble up quickly. Damn it! These strange creatures in the darkness rushed out in swarms, just like that night in Yubai City. Lin Xian felt a mixture of curses and relief. Fortunately, he had used the daylight hours to prepare the train cars and armor, and got Shuken and the others on board. Otherwise, there would have been heavy casualties once night fell. The darkness seemed to hold an endless supply of terrors, and no one knew what would suddenly leap from the darkness of the woods and crash into the Infinity Train's hood. Lin Xian, look! Chen Sixuan suddenly exclaimed. Lin Xian looked up, and a light on the distant track suddenly caught his eye. There looks like someone over there. Chen Sixuan's eyes were filled with anxiety and curiosity, as she saw what looked like a figure standing in the middle of the track. Zombie, not likely. Beep, beep. At that moment, the train's transponder suddenly chimed. A mechanical voice boomed from within. Ahead, please merge onto track 3 branch line. What? Lin Xian was startled and quickly pressed the transponder button. Who's talking? No one responded. The mechanical voice seemed to appear out of nowhere. Chen Sixuan tapped Lin Xian on the shoulder. He looked up and was shocked to find that the dark figure on the track had disappeared. Instead, a branched line had appeared on the main track ahead. The switch had been changed. The track has been changed. Never mind, let's get in first. At that moment, countless strange entities descended upon the train from the darkness. A dense swarm of black insects crawled across the tracks, making a rustling sound like rain. He couldn't even stop to change the switch. He gritted his teeth and turned onto a branch line. Under the light, the branched line seemed to extend into a mountain forest. The surroundings grew darker. Towering trees blocked out the sun, and steep rocks appeared to the side. Please vote for menu book. The leader will update more chapters, and the monthly votes will add more chapters. Thank you to all the friends who support me. Chapter 177 Rain Town. Gunfire roared from the train cars behind, and the monsters' roars and attacks on the train's armor plating continued unabated. Lin Xian was terrified. The view ahead of the train gradually opened up, revealing a platform with numerous tank cars parked and the outline of an industrial town in the distance. Yuzhen Station. Chen Sixuan nervously checked the train computer. This branch line connects to the main track of Huingsing. We should be able to get back on track by going forward. No. Lin Xian stared ahead. On the track, a tank car blocked the Infinity. He immediately panicked and slammed the entire train to the brakes. Squeak. All the wheels stopped, sparks flew across the track, and the rails glowed red. Everyone in the train was thrown off balance by inertia, and screams rang out. As the train braked, debris rained down from the roof, and the stench of hot steel from the wheels, mixed with a fishy stench, began to fill the air. What should we do? Back off. Charge out. Lin Xian gritted his teeth, desperately preparing to launch himself backwards. But then, a strange scene unfolded. The sounds of attack from the rear of the train suddenly ceased, and the gunfire gradually died down. Just as everyone was stunned, Kiki spotted something through the surveillance system. Lin Xian, it seems those monsters haven't caught up. What's going on? Shuken, Captain Lin, those strange entities are gone. Shuken's voice came over the communicator. I checked, the rear compartment is intact, no damage, the middle section is also fine, the building said over the communicator. In Car 2, Kiki checked the sentry system. Although the armor and roof were in tatters, the armor's integrity was intact. However, The cracks were filled with fragments of dead insect flesh. Lin Xian and Chen Sixuan exchanged a look of surprise at Shukin's words. He immediately stood up and ran to car 2. Sure enough, the sentry system showed no monsters outside the infinity. Arriving at carriage number 5 again, Lin Xian opened the door. A strong, fishy odor wafted into the air. Monster remains hung from the roof, but there was no movement outside. He closed the door again and said to Kiki, "Girl, use the drones to check." "That's what I was thinking." Knowing Lin Xian's cautious nature, Kiki immediately launched 2 drones and began inspecting the entire train in the darkness. From the drone's perspective, a gruesome scene unfolded outside the infinity carriage. Fortunately, the interior defenses hadn't been breached. As the drones zoomed up, Lin Xian immediately spotted a large number of dark figures rapidly disappearing into the old roadside forest beyond the fork in the road. "What's going on?" Sasha, standing nearby, said in surprise. "Brother Lin, it seems those monsters can't get in." Lin Xian was baffled. Kiki watched the scene, her brows furrowed slightly. Pointing at the screen, she asked, "Yeah, Lin Xian, why does it look like there's some kind of barrier? U-Town isn't a famous place, it's just full of chemical plants," Chen Sixuan said. "Could it be that there's a leak at one of those plants that's keeping those monsters away?" Lin Xian shook his head, stood up, opened the sunshade, and looked out at the deserted freight platform with a serious expression. "There's something fishy going on. Girl, use the drone to scout the road ahead and see how long the train is blocking the tracks. Let's all stay in the car and observe this area." "Shukin, is anyone injured back there?" "Captain Lin, everyone's safe, nothing's wrong." Shukin's voice reached Lin Xian, and he breathed a sigh of relief. It had barely dawned, and he'd already encountered a series of events that had him on edge. He was still racking his brains trying to escape the suffocating swarm of strange, bizarre insects, but suddenly he found himself in this haunted town. And strangest of all, upon arriving here, he felt safe. This was something Lin Xian had never encountered before. Because it wasn't a steel wall, Lin Xian wondered, could there be something that could invisibly block those monsters? Lin Xian walked all the way from car 1 to car 12 to check. Although the interior of the car was filled with the smell of gunpowder and anxiety, fortunately, no one was in trouble. Many people in the living quarters were also confused at this time, while others were grateful to have escaped. "Wow, if we stayed in the car tonight, we would be doomed, with so many monsters." "That's right, it was scary." "Captain Lin, are you okay?" Miaolu, a young girl in the living quarters, saw Lin Xian approaching and stood up enthusiastically to ask. Lin Xian said, "I'm fine." "Did those monsters just run away when we pulled into the station?" Miaolu shook her head. "I didn't really pay attention. It was like all of a sudden, the monsters retreated and there was no movement." "Yes," Shukin said as she approached. "It's very strange. We've never seen anything like this before." Lin Xian nodded. "Okay, everyone, stay alert. We might see so many monsters like before, so be prepared." The train was crawling with strange creatures, and not only Lin Xian but also Shukin and the others were caught off guard. If it weren't for the thick armor, the dozens of people on board would have become food for the monsters. Lin Xian used his mechanical mind to check the integrity of each car along the way, repairing some fasteners as he went. When he reached car number 3, he was stopped by Ding Junai. Ding Junai pointed solemnly at the pot of bloody disaster plant number 1, took a deep breath, and said, "I've been keeping an eye on it." Just now, the hell-black chrysanthemum changed. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He hurried over, frowning as he looked at the black chrysanthemum. "Is the red glow dimmer?" "Yes," Ding Junai nodded. "Not only that, during the fight just now, I saw a wisp of black smoke being sucked into it, and then its red glow weakened significantly." "Black smoke?" Lin Xian frowned. "This kind of smoke appeared when we killed the strange entities before, so we must have killed some strange entities in the process just now," Ding Junai said. "What does this mean?" Lin Xian asked. Ding Junai crossed her arms. "The appearance of the strange blood essence is also accompanied by that black smoke. According to this logic, the disaster plant should be able to absorb the power of this black smoke." "That makes sense," Lin Xian nodded, his expression slightly grim. "But we don't know what it does, or what it signifies. We can't monitor this kind of change in the lab," Ding Junai said. "So now we at least know some of its characteristics. If you have time, please kill a few more," or capture a few strange entities so I can test the degree to which the black smoke produced after the strange entity dies affects the disaster planned, or the distance it can absorb, etc. The more experiments we do, the sooner we'll know the results." Lin Xian was stunned. Huh? He thought he had misheard and pointed at his face. "Capture a few strange entities? Are you talking to me?" Ding Junai tilted her head slightly, her eyes serious behind her black-framed glasses. "Yes, from a scientific perspective, more experimental controls will lead to more accurate conclusions. Is this woman even talking? Forget about capturing it. If more monsters die near the train, you can observe them later." Lin Xian walked away speechlessly. Although he understood Ding Junai's intention, he really didn't feel like discussing the experiment at the moment. Capturing a strange entity? Who would do such a stupid thing? Impossible, not in this lifetime. Lin Xian said this bitterly in his heart. New book, please vote for it. More chapters for the leader. More chapters for the monthly votes. Thank you to all the friends who support me. Chapter 178 Candlelight. Strange things kept happening, and Lin Xian was filled with a deep sense of unease. The preparation center in his hand lit up, and Lin Xian checked the material conversion progress inside. He already had most of the materials needed for 1130. Hurry up and make one, or I won't be able to sleep well. Lin Xian. As he entered car 2, Kiki's voice rang out. Chen Sixuan and Shasha were gathered in front of the information center, watching Kiki's drone footage. Come and take a look, Chen Sixuan called out to Lin Xian. He walked over and saw that the drone was now flying towards the town beyond the platform. Strangely, under the night sky, many houses in the town were faintly lit, as if by gas lamps or candles. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian frowned. How many people live in this town? Strange. Kiki crossed her legs and floated up on a stool, constantly closing the distance to the drone. However, due to the distance, only the outlines of some buildings could be seen. If they were survivors, who would light the lights like this? Lin Xian immediately understood what Kiki meant. These lights looked as if they were before the end of the world, when the power outage in the town made the residents light candles. In short, it didn't look like the end of the world at all. This town is so strange. Not only are there people, but those monsters in the dark can't get in. Could it be some special person with superpowers? Kiki held his chin and thought. With such a supernatural power, wouldn't we be invincible? Sasha widened her eyes, opened her hands, and said exaggeratedly, one person can protect everyone. Chen Sixuan looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian, what do you think? Lin Xian shook his head, and he didn't have any thoughts at this time. I don't know either, but judging from the situation, we are safe for the time being. Girl, I asked you to scout the way ahead just now. How is it? It's just a chemical tanker. We just need to move it away. The road conditions ahead are fine. Okay, then do you want to go to the town to have a look? No need. Lin Xian looked at the dark and deserted platform outside the window, as well as the outline of the town in the distance, and said, even if we want to go, let's wait until daytime. Let's move the tanker away to keep the train passage from being blocked, and then see the situation tonight. Someone specifically asked us to turn into this branch line, and I'm worried that there might be trouble. Anyway, we will stay put and use this place to avoid the wind at night. Chen Sixuan and Kiki nodded simultaneously. Lin Xian remained cautious. In such a strange situation, it would be unwise to rashly exit the train and explore the town. With a swish, the cockpit door opened, and Lin Xian and Kiki exited. Lu Da and Lu Xingchen also left the train to stand guard. The train platform in U-Town was a large chemical freight station, with a closed warehouse to one side. Under the moonlight, the pitch-black platform was bathed in a shimmering glow, and a still, silent atmosphere prevailed. Lin Xian, agile, swiftly followed the tracks to the locomotive. His mechanical heart activated, scanning the entire train. Soon, the scan was complete. With a whimper, he began to move the tanker truck. Kiki helped him change the switches. Then, under the Infinity's lights, Lin Xian swiftly moved the tanker truck off the track, clearing a path for the Infinity. Chirp! The low hum of insects surrounded him, and he felt anxious and extremely alert. However, nothing unexpected happened, and the car move was completed smoothly. Once everything was settled, he didn't hesitate, and immediately had everyone aboard. As Lin Xian was about to step into the Infinity's cockpit, he suddenly paused, turned, and looked back at the dark, empty platform behind him. He felt an inexplicable chill run down his spine. "What's wrong?" Chen Sixuan whispered. Lin Xian turned back, and without a word, he got on the car. Chirp! The cockpit door closed, and everyone felt safe. But for some reason, Lin Xian had just felt like something was watching them. "I'll be on guard tonight. Teacher Chen, little girl, you all get some sleep. Shukin and I will be on duty." Lin Xian called everyone together and began to make arrangements. "I'm not going to sleep," Kiki said. "I'm fine. Aren't you going to assemble the 1130 close-in weapons system and the engineering robot tonight? I can help you debug the systems." Lin Xian looked at her and nodded. "Okay." At this moment, Lin Xian noticed that Sasha looked a little off, so he asked, "Sasha, what's wrong, brother Lin?" Sasha frowned slightly. "I feel a little spooky here. I'm a little uneasy." "Me too," Chen Sixuan said gravely. "Although the monsters are gone, this town still gives me an uneasy feeling, so we'll just wait on the train until daybreak," Lin Xian said bluntly. "I'll seal the train. Only I can open the doors. You all get some rest." Although Lin Xian was also filled with doubts, as the team leader, he didn't want to deliberately convey any negative feelings of unease. After giving his instructions, everyone felt a little relieved. Those who needed to rest did so, while those who needed to stand guard resumed their night watch. Lin Xian, after everyone left, Chen Sixuan stood at the door to the bedroom hatch in carriage number 1 and said to Lin Xian, "Be careful." Lin Xian nodded. "Yes, I know." He then opened the heterogeneous Rubik's Cube and scanned the train again. Beep. Using non-mechanical force for reflection detection, detection successful. No fear risk within the train. Dark side forces have been blocked. He immediately picked up the soul value detector and pressed the button 0. There seems to be nothing unusual inside or outside the car. Lin Xian's eyes moved slightly. He didn't know why, even though he had obtained a good result, he still felt a little uneasy. Can it block the strange body and the superpower? Or, thinking in his heart, he suddenly looked at the heterogeneous Rubik's Cube he had just used, and frowned. Could it be some kind of taboo? Lin Xian could only think of these two situations, and after thinking about this, he actually preferred the latter. If a survivor had such a superpower, then he would be invincible, even more amazing than his mechanical heart. If it is a taboo, Lin Xian had some ideas in his mind at this time. It was already amazing that there was a magic tool like the heterogeneous Rubik's Cube in the car that could block the power of the dark infection. If there was something that could isolate strange bodies, wouldn't a major survivor organizations in the world fight for it? Forget it, let's see tomorrow. Lin Xian connected the car's transponder system to his communicator, holding it in his hand. He then inspected the train cars and made his way to the rear. Many people in the living car were already asleep. Shukin and Lu Chang, along with several other skilled personnel, had turned off the lights and were guarding the aisle. Kiki followed Lin Xian into car 11, where 3 cars and a motorcycle were parked. He planned to use them for later exit maneuvers. Car 12 was completely empty. Lin Xian planned to build an 1130 close-in weapons system here, turning it into a weapon station. Arriving at car 12, which was brightly lit but empty, Kiki, holding her laptop, said to Lin Xian, "Lin Xian, you can build Gatling guns now, why don't you build a few more? Would that increase our firepower?" "Do you think I don't want to?" Lin Xian gave a helpless smile. "You little girl, you really think I'm a factory, don't you?" New book, please vote for me. More chapters for the leader. Thanks to all my friends for your support. Chapter 179, Making Cannons Late at Night. Lin Xian wasn't overly difficult to manufacture these upgraded firearms, but the main challenge lay with the ammunition. Gunpowder preparation, material conversion, and ammunition weren't complex, but Lin Xian's manufacturing speed was limited. Furthermore, these things were used up so quickly, and he couldn't focus on 2 things at once. The 1130 wasn't even finished yet, and once it was, it would be another major ammunition consumer. Lin Xian calculated that to make this thing fire for 15 seconds, his manufacturing center would have to work all day. Once the gunpowder and materials were ready, he'd have to keep manufacturing them until they turned into bullets. On top of that, he had to devour machinery, manufacture other items, and upgrade the R&D center, all of which demanded his time and energy. Unfortunately, Lin Xian's machinery manufacturing was a single-threaded process, making it impossible to handle everything. If he had to supply the firepower of an entire train, even if he were a stud, he wouldn't be able to keep up. How would he have time for devouring and upgrading? I'm still waiting for you to build an electromagnetic cannon. Once I have made 1130, the next step will be to make that. That's right." After Kiki finished speaking, she tiptoed off the ground and flew lightly past Lin Xian. She floated in the air with her arms folded across her chest and flew backwards while looking at Lin Xian. "Hey, I think we need to go to Star City. Anyway, we have already torn our faces with the people of the Federation. We might as well get some high-end technology from them. Are you saying that we should drive directly into Star City and go to war with their federal garrison?" "Stupid." Kiki poked Lin Xian's forehead with a finger. "We won't sneak in quietly. Just let me access their system terminal. I can steal some blueprints you want directly, or you can scan them quietly." Lin Xian smiled. "That makes sense. I forgot you can fly. It's worth considering. You can give it a try." This is indeed a plan that can be referred to. Now the world's high-end war equipment is either in the hands of the Interstellar Army or in the hands of the Federation. In the case of not fleeing in a panic, taking the initiative to obtain blueprints is also a good way. "Hey, you're finally getting wise. Alright, let's get started." Lin Xian took a deep breath, lifted the car's sunshade, and looked out at the dark platform. Then he sat down in the empty car, ready to start work. "Which one should we build first?" "A robot, of course." Lin Xian stretched out his hand, and a light appeared in his hand. Many rare materials began to fly out, and a black chip slowly took shape. The PX-05 engineering robot that climbs the elevator can autonomously access the system program. In addition to inspection, welding, and transportation, it is also relatively fast and sturdy. With this, I can directly help me maintain the weapon station ammunition chain. Kiki's eyes lit up when he heard this. "Wow, smart. Have you ever thought about converting this robot into combat mode to defend against the enemy?" "I have thought about it," Lin Xian said, "but my current ability level is not enough to mass-produce drones. It takes several hours to build one." Kiki nodded. "Okay, then you build it first. I will help you overwrite the system, and then let this guy help you modify and maintain the train." Yes, assembling 1130 is a huge project. It is not something that can be built and thrown on the carriage. No one else can help, so Lin Xian plans to build this engineering robot first to solve some key tasks for him. Moreover, for this large equipment, Lin Xian needs Kiki to use telekinesis to help. With this thing, we have a formidable mechanical helper." Seeing materials constantly flying out of Lin Xian's hands, Kiki said excitedly. "Don't get too excited just yet." Lin Xian's expression was extremely serious, his mechanical heart working furiously. Although his mechanical manufacturing had already reached level 3, he still felt immense pressure to begin manufacturing at this point. Chi mechanical core, central control, frame, Hall effect anode layer thrusters, various sensors, small motors, energy pack. 2 hours passed, and the prototype of the engineering robot finally took shape. Kiki watched nervously from the side. Seeing Lin Xian sweating profusely, she ran over and fanned him with her hand. Don't worry, we're almost there." "Do you still think manufacturing is that easy for me?" Lin Xian said. "Okay, I know you've been working hard," Kiki giggled. "Then let me give you a shoulder massage." "No, don't bother me," Lin Xian said, speechless. He was focused right now and didn't need her attention. Tisk with a click, as the final piece of the mechanical shell was assembled, Lin Xian finally succeeded in building the small engineering robot. Wow, it worked. Plumes of smoke billowed as the yellow, two-armed robot quietly collapsed to the floor. Lin Xian, sweating profusely, finally breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at the small robot before him, a wave of emotion washed over him. He had previously considered building an army of robots for combat, but this engineering robot had taught him a lesson. The road to becoming a skilled mechanic was long and arduous. He knew he still had a long way to go before reaching that level. "Try it," Lin Xian said to Kiki, wiping his sweat off his forehead. Kiki immediately flipped on the engineering robot's power button. A beep sounded. Program starting. The PX-05 engineering robot's main control panel lit up, followed by a faint electrical hum. The robot's thrusters lit up with a pale blue glow, and it slowly lifted off, floating within carriage 12. "Wow, that's impressive," Kiki's eyes lit up. "Just wait." She immediately pulled out her mobile computer, connected it to the engineering robot's programming interface, and began configuring the system. "Okay, you go ahead and do that. I'll get back to the cannon." "Okay," Kiki said readily. Having traveled all the way from Jiang City, the two of them had already established a good level of chemistry. With that, Lin Xian began examining the materials in the decomposition chamber. Without hesitation, while Kiki was debugging the robot, he began fabricating the pieces. A flash of light flashed in his hands, and a flood of metal material began to fly out, solidifying, shaping, forging, and assembling. Gradually, a massive 1,130 mm close-in weapon system was being constructed by Lin Xian. In Carriage 12, Kiki was also diligently helping with the work. As the heavy weapon took shape, Lin Xian's eyes lit up with excitement. Finally, I'm going to have a killer weapon. Clang, clang, clang. Lin Xian didn't stick with the original paint scheme, but made minor adjustments. The base, the lifting platform, the automatic roof hatch, and the rear ammunition feed. The electro-optical side and phased array radar were assembled, and a mobile, elevating close-in weapon system appeared in Carriage 12. The over 10-ton behemoth exuded a powerful, murderous aura. By then, Kiki's PX-05 engineering robot had also completed its basic configuration and flew over to help Lin Xian install the turret base. Got it, but I'll need some time to get the ammunition feed you requested. Let it help with the chores first, Kiki said proudly, hands on her hips. Huh? Lin Xian nodded, sighing. Finally, it's done. It was already early morning. For Lin Xian, building such a large device for the first time was a bit of a challenge. Previously, he had crafted firearms, armor, vehicle accessories, and even the dining car's freezer, all of which were relatively simple mechanical mechanisms. The water purifier was one of Lin Xian's more sophisticated creations. He had no experience with this engineering robot and the 1,130 close-in weapons system, and they took a considerable amount of time. Mechanical manufacturing. 260/1000. Lin Xian opened the light curtain of the mechanical heart and discovered that these two items had directly increased his manufacturing proficiency by over 200. That's a significant increase, not bad. Mechanical devouring and mechanical manufacturing were fundamental skills that Lin Xian was eager to improve, greatly increasing his leveling efficiency. Although his decomposition space was almost empty of materials, he had finally managed to create one. Please vote for the new book. The leader will update the book with additional monthly votes. Thank you to all your supporters. Chapter 180 Special Bodyguard. Wu Zizizi. Wu Kaka. In Car 12, Lin Xian and Kiki sat on the empty floor to rest, watching the PX-05 robot busily assembling its weapon station. Lin Xian, yeah, how could it be such a coincidence? We haven't encountered monsters anywhere else, but as soon as we entered darkness, we were surrounded by monsters. And then someone showed up at the critical moment and led us to this town. Kiki leaned back with her hands, tilting her head to look at Lin Xian. Lin Xian smiled helplessly, closed his eyes and took a long breath. I also want to know. If I know, maybe we can turn from passive to active in this doomsday. Oh, Kiki sighed softly, lay directly on the ground, rubbing her belly and said, I hate the doomsday. I miss my ice cream and potato chips, and milk tea, and when I think about what unknown scary things are outside the car, my stomach feels cold and painful. Lin Xian said speechlessly, what does this have to do with horror? You are having your period. I don't care. Kiki snorted lightly, closed her eyes and grabbed a handful of air. When my superpowers become stronger, I will fly to the sky and crush those monsters to death. I also want to fly into that star abyss to see what the hell it is. Girl, Lin Xian said, do you remember in your dream? Oh, I don't want to listen unexpectedly. When she heard this topic, Kiki immediately covered her ears with an unnatural expression, as if she didn't want to discuss her memories with Lin Xian. No, Lin Xian said seriously, I mean, in your dream, I saw a giant floating in the air. Kiki was also stunned when he said this, a very big man, a huge mummy floating in the air, right? Lin Xian nodded, I think this kind of thing should not be a fantasy. Since I can see it, you must have seen it at some point. It was when the helicopter crashed in Jiang City that day. Kiki looked at the roof of the car and said, because the plane crashed at that time, I didn't remember it very clearly. It was after some time with you that I remembered a little bit. I remember that I seemed to have seen a particularly scary monster in the clouds. Monster, such a big thing, isn't it a monster? Lin Xian was speechless for a moment. That's right, such a giant is a mummy, and I don't know if it is alive or dead, who knows. Kiki closed her eyes, seemingly unwilling to think too deeply. She complained, we can't even handle what we're facing now. We can only run away. The more we run, the more monsters there are and the stronger they become. It's as if we're being targeted, and those monsters of the night have put a bounty on us. If that's the case, then all these psychics in this train must be worth a fortune." Lin Xian frowned slightly and fell silent. Seeing that Lin Xian didn't say anything, Kiki sat up as well. "What's wrong?" Lin Xian shook his head, his thoughts a little confused. "Nothing, just thinking about what you just said. It's late now, you should get some sleep." Lin Xian checked his watch. "I'll wait until we're done here, and then we have to deal with the train behind us." "Okay." Kiki nodded sleepily, stood up, glanced at Lin Xian, took a few steps, and stopped. Then she suddenly flew back, wrapped her legs around Lin Xian's waist like a koala, hugged his neck, and buried her head in his arms. Lin Xian raised his hands, a little at a loss. "What are you doing? Don't move, I'm just going to sleep here for a while." Kiki and his arms murmured softly. Lin Xian felt the girl's body temperature and tender waist, and couldn't help but said helplessly, "Isn't it a bit ambiguous? I'm talking about this situation." "Shut up." Kiki closed her eyes and took Lin Xian's hand and put it on her waist. "Hypocrite, why weren't you so serious when you peeked at my underwear? You said so much when I asked you to hug me. Anyway, you don't need to move when you devour the machine, and I can still protect you after speaking." Kiki moved her posture, and it seemed that she liked this action of wrapping Lin Xian around her waist. Her legs were tightly clasped around Lin Xian's waist. Her body was light, like a well-behaved cat, making people feel soft. At that moment, Kiki suddenly felt something pressing against Lin Xian's lower abdomen. Her face flushed, and she closed her eyes, frowning and gritting her teeth as she said, "Pervert." Lin Xian was at a loss for words. "You're being unreasonable, aren't you? I don't want to move either. If you insist on hanging on to me, what can I do?" "Tisk." Lin Xian looked down at Kiki, who lay in his arms, eyes closed and sleepy. A warm feeling welled up in his heart, knowing Kiki was trying to protect him. The situation outside was uncertain, and he had to take some risks to devour those trains. Having Kiki, with her telekinetic abilities, by his side would certainly give him peace of mind. However, he also knew that she hadn't slept for 2 days. He had lost consciousness after expending so much energy climbing the elevator, but Kiki wasn't much better off than him. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Kiki breathed faintly in his arms, seemingly on the verge of falling asleep. "Okay then." Although it felt a little strange, since this was Kiki's special bodyguard service, Lin Xian didn't hesitate. He immediately stood up, holding Kiki in his arms, and exited the nuclear-powered locomotive's cockpit. He then walked to the rear of the intercity train, which had been towed from Jiazhou City, ready to begin devouring. Before boarding the train, he glanced around at the pitch-black freight platform, took a deep breath, and climbed directly into the cockpit of the train, which hadn't been used for a long time. With Kiki by his side, Lin Xian felt strangely more at ease. The girl seemed to actually fall asleep in his arms, her breathing even more steady. So, holding Kiki, who was like a koala, Lin Xian sat in the carriage and began to mechanically devour her. Lin Xian then opened the panel of his mechanical heart, current mechanical heart level LV, 3, 565/5000, strength level 3, 30%, burst 300 kilograms, speed level 2, 40%, limit 13 meters per second, defense level 2, 26%, iron bone, mechanical awakening, mechanic, awakening skills, R&D center, preparation factory mechanical devouring 3, 466/1000, improves devouring efficiency mechanical manufacturing 3, 260/1000, improves construction efficiency mechanical passive, scan repair decomposition, special skills, wind cannon, ordinary, level 3, full level, ice shield, ordinary, level 209%, flashback, rare, level 130%, surge, rare, level 123%, reminder, the VOG grenade launcher blueprint is being upgraded and developed, 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 34 seconds, hey, the blueprint is almost ready, congratulations, you have obtained the Thunderstorm A1 grenade launcher, blueprint, wow, single shots turned into continuous fire. Shash is probably going to be ecstatic. Lin Xian was ecstatic. This R&D center was simply incredible. If it weren't for practical considerations, he'd seriously want to just throw that electromagnetic railgun in there and see what he could come up with. But it was just a thought. With his current level of mechanical engineering, throwing that thing in there would probably take 50 or 60 days. Even if he had the blueprints, he wouldn't be able to build it. It would be pure futile effort. So, Lin Xian pondered for a moment and decided to try out Teacher Chen's A33K heavy anti-material sniper rifle. Please select the weapon development direction, firepower, 3 days 15 hours, mobility, 3 days 12 hours. Huh? Lin Xian was stunned. Hasn't my mechanical engineering already reached level 3? Why is it taking so long? He thought for a moment, figuring that the anti-material sniper rifle itself required a higher level of skill, so it would take longer. For the sake of experimentation, Lin Xian added the blueprints for the Growler K-23 electric rotary machine gun and the Thunderstorm A-1 grenade launcher he had just obtained. Sure enough, the former required 4 days, while the latter required 3 days and 20 hours. Regarding the new book, please vote for it. The leader will give me more chapters. Thanks to all my friends for your support. Chapter 181, Complete Devouring. I see. What about the 1130? Lin Xian placed a blueprint for the 1130 close-in weapon system into the R&D center. Ling. The R&D center flashed again, but last time it was red, this time it was yellow. This blueprint is high level. Current mechanical manufacturing level 3. R&D time increased by 25%. Please select the weapons R&D direction, firepower, 15 days and 18 hours, mobility, 11 days and 22 hours, precision, 12 days and 9 hours, almost there. If the mechanical manufacturing level reaches level 4, R&D should only take about 10 days. Lin Xian had a clear idea, so without further consideration, he chose to upgrade the sniper rifle. This time, he chose mobility over firepower. This gun is still too big for Teacher Chen. If it had better mobility, it would be more suitable for her. Lin Xian wasn't worried about the power of the upgraded gun. What mattered most was that it would be more suitable for Chen Sixuan. And now that Chen Sixuan had joined the battle, Lin Xian was also concerned about her safety. Reminder, A33K heavy anti-material sniper rifle upgrade blueprint underway. 3 days, 11 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. Take your time developing it. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief, wasting no more time as he began devouring the intercity train locomotive before him. Devouring progress 1%. Lin Xian sensed the speed. The locomotives of this intercity train weren't on the same level of power as the Huangsing 7F electric locomotives, and their size was also quite a bit smaller. He estimated that he should be able to finish one in about 2 to 3 hours, and all of them should be finished before dawn. Time ticked by. Devouring progress 30%, devouring progress 60%, devouring successful, mechanical source points plus 300, mechanical devouring skill proficiency plus 100, bonus, strength 10, speed 5, defense 10. 2 hours later, a reminder appeared before Lin Xian's eyes. The locomotive of the intercity train suddenly disintegrated into a cloud of ash. His feet felt empty, and he quickly hugged Kiki tightly in his arms, landing directly on the tracks in a cloud of dust. Kiki, slumbering in Lin Xian's arms, was startled awake by the noise. She hummed softly, eyes closed, twisting herself up, resting her face on his shoulder and continuing to sleep. This girl had a rather unusual sleeping position. She pressed her face toward Lin Xian, her lips slightly pouting. Her delicate lips breathed softly against his neck, causing a slight tingling sensation. Lin Xian couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement at the sight. His heart skipped a beat, and suddenly, as if possessed, he lowered his head to capture those delicate lips. Instantly, a soft, fragrant sensation enveloped him. Kiki, who wasn't sure if she was asleep or not, suddenly moved forward, humming and pouting. Kiki's active response instantly aroused Lin Xian, his chest and abdomen ablaze with heat. He immediately pulled away from her lips, forcing himself to suppress the turmoil within him. Oh my god, wasn't he devouring a locomotive? Why are we kissing? He glanced at Kiki again and found she was still asleep, seemingly oblivious to his actions, as if she were simply unconsciously accommodating him. He quickly opened his system panel, breathed a sigh of relief, and began to shift his focus. Each locomotive only yields 300 mechanical source points now. To reach level 4, I'd need to consume 16 of them. After reaching level 3, The mechanical source point yield decreased again. He estimated that the Huangsing 7F electric locomotive, which previously yielded 500 mechanical source points, would now only yield around 400. If we can't improve quality, we can only rely on quantity. The 100-point gain in mechanical devouring proficiency was still considerable. If he could reach level 4, and with more daylight hours now, he could also devour more large machines to gain advancements. The transponder remained silent all night. A chilling chill filled the eerie darkness of the platform, but nothing else happened. Lin Xian, wary and cautious, devoured the locomotives. It quickly reached 6 a.m. It was still dark on the freight platform in U-Town, but the tracks were largely empty, save for the Infinity. He devoured the locomotives of 2 freight trains, plus the locomotive of the chemical tanker, 3 locomotives, along with several carriages. This nearly drained Lin Xian's energy. If it weren't for the soft yet powerful koala, he wouldn't have dared to fight so hard. Swallowed successfully, mechanical source points plus 320, mechanical devouring skill proficiency plus 100, bonus, strength 20, speed 15, defense 8, swallowed successfully, mechanical source points plus 280, mechanical devouring skill proficiency plus 100, bonus, strength 15, speed 12, defense 15, swallowed successfully, mechanical source points plus 330, mechanical devouring skill proficiency plus 100, bonus, strength 13, speed 15, defense 13, successful devouring, mechanical source points plus 15, mechanical devouring skill proficiency plus 5, bonus, strength 2, successful devouring, mechanical source points plus 13, mechanical devouring skill proficiency plus 5, bonus, defense 1. Disassembly, obtain 500 high manganese steel, 500 hot-rolled forged steel, 250 cold-rolled duplex steel plate, 1,200 ordinary carbon steel, non-metallic foam, non-metallic composite materials. Disassembly, obtain glass, plastic, iron, aluminum, copper, semiconductor components, transistors, diodes, field effect transistors, integrated circuits, resistors, capacitors, inductors, circuit boards. The 3 locomotives and a dozen train cars instantly granted Lin Xian 1,155 mechanical source points and 375 mechanical devouring proficiency. Furthermore, he gained 55 strength, 50 speed, and 41 defense. Meanwhile, the preparation center also obtained a large amount of metal materials, including a significant amount of higher-grade steel. An absolute bonanza, current mechanical heart level LV, 3, 1720. 5,000, strength level 3, 85%, burst 300 kilograms, speed level 2, 90%, limit 13 meters per second, defense level 2, 67%, iron bone, mechanical awakening, mechanic, awakening skills, R&D center, manufacturing factory mechanical devouring 3, 841/1000, improves devouring efficiency mechanical manufacturing 3, 260/1000, improves construction efficiency mechanical passive, scan repair decomposition, special skills, wind cannon, normal, level 3, max level, ice shield, normal, level 209%, flashback, rare, level 130%, surge, rare, level 123%, reminder, the A33K heavy anti-material sniper rifle blueprint is undergoing upgrade research and development. 3 days, 5 hours, 49 minutes, and 55 seconds, it was still dark. With a heavy head, Lin Xian opened the cockpit door and returned to the car, preparing to put Kiki back on the bed. Unexpectedly, the girl fell asleep on top of him. He had no choice but to bend over and lay her on the bed, unhooking her legs from around his waist. But the girl held his neck tightly, and Lin Xian struggled briefly. Seeing the girl's soft, snoring breath, he couldn't help but breathe deeply into her soft, fragrant mouth before pulling away. Kiki licked her lips in her sleep, her eyes closed, and then turned over. Seeing she hadn't woken, Lin Xian felt a little guilty. He stood up and rubbed his sore waist. His chest was warm from holding her all night. Back in carriage 1, it was now a first-class carriage in excellent condition, with a separate bedroom that Chen Sixuan had prepared last night. Lin Xian pushed the door open and entered. Chen Sixuan, startled awake at the noise, said, "Lin Xian, is it daybreak yet? Come sleep a while. I'll be up." Lin Xian's heart warmed. He walked over and slid into bed, embracing Chen Sixuan's delicate body. He closed his eyes and said, "It's not just the two of us now. Let them keep watch for a while." Chen Sixuan blushed slightly. "Then go take a shower first. There's a bathroom now, so it's time for you to shower." Showering was a luxury for those escaping the apocalypse, but now that Infinity had a water purifier system, it could basically meet their basic needs, temporarily resolving their water shortage. "And I don't have that anymore." Chen Sixuan's heart pounded, assuming Lin Xian wanted to have sex, so she mustered the courage to voice her concerns. However, as soon as she finished her words, there was no response from Lin Xian. She turned around and saw that the exhausted Lin Xian had peacefully fallen asleep. She was immediately surprised and glared at him with her almond-shaped eyes, puffing out her cheeks. "Actually, it's okay if you don't need it. As long as you, really asleep?" Chen Sixuan bit her lip and glanced at him, then felt a little distressed. She reached out and stroked Lin Xian's head, holding him in her arms, suppressing her restless heart, and fell asleep too. New book, please vote for it. More chapters for the leader. More chapters for the monthly votes. Thank you to all the friends who support me. Chapter 182 Small Town. P.S. Many of you have complained that the data panel is just a word count overkill, but that's not the case. It's mainly because this mechanical ability is quite complex, and I usually only release it every few dozen chapters. The last time it appeared was in chapter 120, and the upgrade details were relatively minimal. However, since everyone seems to be complaining about it, I'll try to be more concise. Thank you for your patience. At 10 a.m., daybreak arrived. After a night of anxious vigilance, the tense atmosphere within the Infinity finally eased somewhat. Since the doors remained closed, Chen Sixuan and the others began to complete the assembly of the living quarters, distributing water and food. Sasha, having slept all night, also rose early to join her brother in organizing the ammunition in Carriage 5. Lin Xian regained some energy after 3 hours of sleep. When he emerged from the living quarters, he saw Kiki already seated at a computer in the information center, munching on a piece of bread while operating a drone to monitor the town. Seeing Lin Xian enter Carriage 2, Kiki glanced at him, a meaningful smile playing on her lips. She then turned back to stare at the screen as if nothing had happened. Lin Xian felt something strange in the way he looked at the girl, and suddenly felt a little embarrassed, wondering if she had caught him kissing her last night. If so, then Kiki's image of him would surely be that of an unshakable beast. "Are you awake?" At this moment, Chen Sixuan also came over and said to Lin Xian, "Just a few hours of sleep." Lin Xian was about to say something, but when he saw Chen Sixuan coming, he cleared his throat and replied, "That's enough. I can't sleep much longer. It's daylight now, and I'm going to take people to the town to check it out. I want to go too." "I want to go too." Sasha came running down the aisle, eager to try. "Don't go. We need to leave some people on the bus for defense. If you really want to get off, join them in searching the area around the freight station to see if there's anything." Sasha said, feeling a little disappointed. "Okay, be careful then." "That's right." Lin Xian suddenly remembered something and gathered materials from the factory, quickly beginning to manufacture. 10 minutes later, a Black Thunderstorm A1 grenade launcher was ready. "Wow!" Sasha's eyes widened as she snatched it from Lin Xian's hands, her face filled with amazement. "Oh my god, Brother Lin, when did you learn to make this?" Sasha, petite, looked a little awkward holding this massive device, but Lin Xian was surprised to find it didn't seem all that heavy in her hands. "You seem to be holding it so easily. Is it heavy?" Sasha weighed it in her hand. "It's a little heavier than mine, but it can hold 6 rounds at once, so it's definitely a lot more powerful." Her previous disappointment seemed to vanish, and Sasha's eyes lit up as she took it in her hands and couldn't let it go. Chen Sixuan looked at Lin Xian. "So, what should we do with the rest of the group? You take the men to clean up the outside of the train. Shasha and Brother Ho will check the freight station and gather any good supplies. Xia Onyu, Shuken, and Lauda will split up and head into the town to check the situation." Ding Junai and some of the women from the living quarters were also on the train. Lin Xian felt more at ease leaving Lu Xingjian, the fire-powered psychic, behind. He didn't like wandering around, preferring to bask in the sun and drink tea. He was also quite powerful, making him a perfect choice to guard the train. Shuken, with her exceptional skills and a cautious and perceptive disposition, was a good choice. Lin Xian planned to have her lead Lauda on a tour of the town. He wanted to know if there was anything special about the area and range of the town that prevented the entry of strange entities. One more thing, Lin Xian glanced at the cockpit and said to Chen Sixuan, keep an eye on the transponder and communicator. Let me know if anything happens. Yes, by the way, the weapon station is now deployed. Automatic fire mode can be used if necessary. Director Ding has entered our personnel's facial and vital information into the friendly force system. If you don't know how to use the search, you can ask Shasha. I taught her this morning, Kiki said to Chen Sixuan. Chen Sixuan was confused and looked at Lin Xian. That cannon, Lin Xian nodded. Just in case, you have countermeasures on the vehicle, although it was daytime, since the vehicle-mounted weapon station was already built, the guards still had to be able to use it. In the event of trouble, the people on board could also use the close-in weapon system for cover. Okay, I understand, Chen Sixuan nodded, feeling a sense of emotion. Before, she could only guard the vehicle with a wrench, waiting anxiously for Lin Xian to return. But now, not only did she have an armed team, but she also had a vehicle-mounted close-in weapon system. Both defense and firepower were greatly improved. Under Lin Xian's command, the entire train crew prepared for departure. All combatants, weapons drawn, stood behind automatic doors 5 and 11, awaiting his opening. Everyone, beware. There may be other survivors here. We're not sure if they're friend or foe. Be cautious, Lin Xian announced over the public communication channel. With a swish, the automatic blast-proof doors swung open. Although the sun was shining brightly outside, a chilly air blew in. The temperature inside the train compartment was higher than outside due to the increased number of people living there. Everyone disembarked in unison, weapons drawn. Lin Xian waved his hand, and Lu Chang, Miaolu, and other advanced fighters swiftly dispersed to scan the surrounding train and platform. Shasha, clutching her new weapon, followed Lu Xingchen out of the train, one after the other. The lift for Car 11 lowered, and a bulletproof SUV from the building drove onto the platform. Shuken took the passenger seat and said to Lin Xian, Captain Lin, be careful. Those hiding in small towns are likely lawless criminals, I know. Lin Xian nodded and pointed behind the tracks. Building, Shuken, you guys should search from the area we entered along the perimeter of the town. It's best to determine the approximate range. If there's an area that can block strange entities, then there must be something special about it, either inside the town or outside. To be cautious, Lin Xian split his forces into two groups to investigate. Precisely because of this strange situation, Lin Xian didn't send the regular team members into the town to search for supplies first. He didn't want to use them as cannon fodder. Okay, Brother Xian, Building replied, then started the engine and drove off the platform. Let's go too. Kiki also got off the long unused motorcycle and drove Lin Xian towards the town. The entire Infinity train was guarded by combat personnel. After Lin Xian and Shukin left as part of the reconnaissance team, Chen Sixuan led her men down the train to use high-pressure water cannons to clean the blood and flesh left on the train from the previous night's battle with the strange entity. The stench was reeking, and Lin Xian worried that the smell might be a factor in attracting the night entities. Since Apocalypse Day, he'd been making a habit of cleaning and removing odors during his evacuations, a practice Chen Sixuan approved of. She always did her best to clean the train thoroughly. Let's go check those warehouses, said Sasha, a playful young woman wearing sunglasses and holding a Thunderstorm A1 grenade launcher. Lu Xingchen, meanwhile, had brought a stool down, ready to guard the train while enjoying the sun. Tisk Sasha glared at him, stop being lazy, didn't you want to find tea? Are you still looking for it? Lu Xingchen folded his arms, glanced at the closed warehouse door, and chuckled, stupid, I can tell at first glance that this is a place to store chemicals, how come there is tea? Sasha was immediately furious when she heard it. Just as she was about to explode, she suddenly rolled her eyes and muttered cunningly, okay, since you don't want to go, then I'll go with them by myself. Anyway, if I meet some bad guys who kill me, it doesn't matter. People will just say that you, the god of fire, are famous in vain, strong on the outside but weak on the inside, and all show is empty. I'm asking for monthly tickets for the new book. The leader will give more chapters, and the monthly tickets will give more chapters. Thank you to all the friends who support me. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183 Cinema. Undeserved reputation? Outwardly strong but weak? All show and no substance? Lin Xian's smile froze upon hearing this, his face turning increasingly pale. Every word seemed to accurately guess his sore spot. Sasha glanced at him out of the corner of her eye and found that it worked, so she continued to fan the flames. You can't even protect a little girl, and you still want to protect all of humanity. If it were me, I would probably have to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. It's just right that your fire ability can be used to hit the can for heating, so that people can sit on it and keep their butts warm. Shut up. Lin Xian stood up abruptly, gritting his teeth and pointing at the warehouse in front viciously. Tell me, which warehouse are you going to first? If I don't burn all the snakes, insects, rats and ants in it, they will consider their hygiene conditions good. Sasha smiled proudly, raised her sunglasses, and waved her little hand forward. Magic. The motorcycle was driving on a quiet road. The surrounding trees were lush under the sun. Lin Xian sat in the back seat, looking at the outline of the town street in front of him. Not far from the town, a chemical plant with large reactors and distillation towers stood behind the town. Generally speaking, large chemical plants are far from residential areas, but this one doesn't look that far away, Lin Xian said. Kiki said, maybe there really is a pollutant leak from the plant, which is why those monsters can't get in. Lin Xian was troubled by this. The monsters can't get in, but we can, so who are the monsters? That's not necessarily true, Kiki said stubbornly. Maybe there are things humans can adapt to that monsters can't. Haven't you seen that alien invasion movie? A cold germ that's not fatal to humans can wipe out the aliens. Lin Xian was speechless. This girl seemed to have a point. So he sniffed the air, trying to see if he could detect any strange chemical odor. As they approached the town street, the motorcycle began to slow down. Houses came into view. The town's streets were filled with low buildings and shops, many with their doors tightly shut, others half open, swaying gently in the wind. Leaves, prematurely yellowed and fallen due to the heat, littered the streets. The convenience store shelves were bare, covered in dust and moldy items. Kiki frowned at the devastation and said, "This place is so strange. It doesn't look like anyone lives here." Lin Xian scanned his surroundings, then picked up the soul destruction meter and activated it. A faint light shone, then converged. The needle on the meter slowly moved from negative to 0, surprising Lin Xian. He wondered if the old-fashioned meter was malfunctioning or something, but it seemed to be moving a little slowly. The motorcycle pulled into an intersection. This seemed to be the center of town. It was just a supermarket and a bank facing the street, and across the street, a large-looking movie theater. The two dismounted from their motorcycles and surveyed the surroundings. The streets, bathed in sunlight, shone with a sense of desolation and decay. Quiet and desolate, the decayed bodies of residents lay on the roadside, their clothes shrunken and clung to the ground, buzzing with flies. Strange. I clearly saw these yesterday, Kiki said, looking up at the shops above. The windows were empty. Inside the glass display of a clothing store, several mannequins, their clothes already stripped, stood crookedly behind the windows, as if gazing at Lin Xian and Kiki as they walked down the street. Lin Xian, too, found it strange. He hadn't seen anyone on the way in, but last night, he and Kiki had both seen candles in the town, and in more than one house. Be careful, Lin Xian warned, turning his gaze toward the cinema. Let's go into the mall and check. There were no zombies in the town, but there were no living people either. This left Lin Xian perplexed. He wondered if Shukin and the building had discovered anything. Kiki nodded. Let's go. Maybe someone's hiding, deliberately not coming out. Lin Xian stepped into the cinema's doors, and was immediately greeted by a damp, decaying smell. He frowned, then walked cautiously ahead. Logically, this place should be impervious to aliens, making it a perfect place to survive. Building a shelter here would definitely be better than fleeing everywhere. But if there aren't any living people, that means there's something more terrifying than aliens here, Kiki responded bluntly. Lin Xian kept silent, hoping his suspicions were wrong. The cinema hall was pitch black. Lin Xian quickly produced a powerful flashlight. With a snap, a blinding white light instantly illuminated most of the hall. The sight was a scene of devastation. Ticket machines and popcorn dispensers lined the walls. In the corners lay several tattered tents, and several bodies lay scattered about. They looked like residents of Rain Town who had taken refuge there shortly after the apocalypse. It doesn't look like there are any survivors here. Lin Xian glanced around and was about to leave when Kiki suddenly said, "Lin Xian, there's a noise inside." He immediately turned and shone his flashlight in Kiki's direction, finding it was the hallway leading to the theater. Their eyes met, and they reached a consensus, cautiously heading inside. The intermittent sound of dripping water drifted from the depths of the hallway. Otherwise, the entire space was incredibly quiet, a somewhat unsettling feeling. Kiki floated up and landed at the entrance to the theater, pointing towards Lin Xian, indicating that the noise she had just heard was coming from there. Lin Xian nodded, electricity gathering in his palm as he reached out and slowly pushed open the door. A whimpering sound of rusted metal echoed in the hallway, and in an instant, an overwhelming stench of decay erupted. Kiki's face suddenly changed color, and she flew backwards, pinching her nose, as if retching. Lin Xian's brow furrowed as the stench nearly blinded him. He'd seen plenty of corpses and blood along the way, but this was the first time he had smelled such a strong, putrid stench. Fighting back his nausea, he flung the door open. Aside from the stench, there was no sound from the theater. Lin Xian shone his flashlight inside, finding the aisle completely empty. The screen in front had rotted to a crisp. They walked into the aisle, one in front of the other. Kiki followed, fanning herself tightly through her nose. "It stinks. It stinks." Lin Xian's expression was grave, and he motioned for her to be quiet. As they exited the aisle, they spotted the sloped viewing area stretching upwards to the side and back. He swung his flashlight upwards, but the moment the light reached them, their pupils constricted. Kiki gasped in fear and quickly hid behind Lin Xian. Under the flashlight's white light, the rows of theater seats were now neatly packed. But these people before my eyes are neither living people nor zombies, but rather skeletons of flesh that have been peeled and moldy. Please vote for my new book. The leader will give me more chapters. I'll give you more chapters if you vote for me. Thank you to all my friends for your support. Chapter 184 Flesh and Human Bones. Lin Xian, Kiki, who had always been quite courageous, was frightened by such a scene for the first time. She hid beside Lin Xian, her face filled with disgust, saying, "How could it be? These people." Lin Xian's brows furrowed, the scene before him truly shocking. He observed the rows of flesh and bones and said in a deep voice, "It's a bit strange. The degree of decay is very different from the bodies outside. It looks like they are less than a month old. That means this place is not safe at all," Kiki said, catching her breath. "Do we need to explore further?" "No need." Lin Xian shook his head and shone his flashlight row by row. But when he reached the end, he saw a woman sitting intact among the flesh and bones in the last row of seats. "Lin Xian, there's another person," Kiki exclaimed. From a distance, the woman, with disheveled hair and a disheveled appearance, was reclining in a chair, not knowing whether she was alive or dead. "Let's go check it out." Without another word, Lin Xian ran down the aisle to the viewing platform. Kiki, suppressing her nausea, quickly flew up. As they drew closer, Lin Xian became increasingly certain the woman might still be alive. Crack, crack, crack. Cautiously, Lin Xian conjured a long pole, walked over, and poked the woman in the back. The woman in the chair slumped sideways, her body still stiff, and she was still breathing faintly. Lin Xian and Kiki's eyes met, and Kiki immediately raised her hand, exerting her supernatural power, snatched the woman from the chair, and gently placed her on the aisle floor. "She's definitely still alive," Kiki frowned. "But her heartbeat and breathing are erratic. She must be dying." Lin Xian walked over and shone his flashlight on the woman. She looked to be in her early 30s, her skin gray and malnourished. Her hair and clothes were disheveled, and she had no shoes. Her whole appearance gave off the air of someone nearing death. He looked at the last row of human bones. They weren't in a very advanced stage of decay, and looked quite fresh. "Maybe she's a survivor," Lin Xian said, crouching down to check on the woman. But when he shone his flashlight on her face, she frowned, as if blinded by the bright light, and struggled to raise her hands. Lin Xian and Kiki's expressions changed, and the woman's breathing became rapid. Then she slowly opened her eyes. The next moment, upon seeing Lin Xian and Kiki, her eyes widened in fear, and she shrank back nervously. "Don't be afraid, we won't hurt you." "Who are you?" Lin Xian, not expecting the woman to wake up so suddenly, spoke immediately at her fearful expression. But the woman, seemingly terrified, kept backing away, then struggled to her feet and turned to run. Catch her. Seeing this, Lin Xian decisively ordered Kiki to take action. Okay, the two of them coordinated seamlessly. Kiki raised her hand and used telekinesis to grab the woman, dragging her back. Don't be afraid, we won't hurt you, Lin Xian shouted. The woman struggled frantically under the invisible telekinesis, but no sound came out. Kiki frowned and looked at Lin Xian. Is she deaf-mute? Lin Xian instinctively reacted and was about to try to communicate, but then he saw the woman's face grow even more terrified. Her gaze wasn't directed at Lin Xian and Kiki, but toward the passage behind her. Seeing this, the two quickly turned around and saw a strange human face appear in the passage behind them. It was someone walking backwards. Be careful. Lin Xian's eyes trembled at the sight of the monster, and he raised his hand to send a surge of lightning at it. Woohoo! A flash of silver lightning struck the upside-down white creature, burning a charred hole. The monster paused, then suddenly scrambled towards him at breakneck speed. Without a sound, it reached Lin Xian in less than a second. Lin Xian hadn't expected the monster's speed. He didn't even have time to create an iron gate, so he instinctively threw out an ice shield. Kiki decisively raised her hand, pushing Lin Xian's ice shield forward. Bang! The white, upside-down monster crashed head-on into him, its long, slender arms flailing wildly, sending flesh and bones flying from the seats. Chunks of flesh and bones flew everywhere, creating a clattering sound. Retreat first, Lin Xian immediately ordered Kiki to lead the others out of the theater. The sheer number of bones in the hole meant this theater was like the enclosed space in Dungeon 8, with strange entities even in daylight. Alright, Kiki, unable to maneuver here, landed on the ground, used her supernatural powers to grab the woman, and began running towards the theater's escape route. Lin Xian followed closely behind. Puff, puff, puff. He fired a few test shots with his wind gun, hoping to see if the strange creature could handle it. But the white, inverted creature was incredibly fast. After breaking through his ice shield, it quickly scrambled up to catch up. Buzz! Kiki attacked as he ran, a powerful telekinesis suppressing the white, inverted creature. But the suppression lasted only a few breaths before the creature began to struggle frantically. With the two sides at a stalemate, Kiki gritted her teeth, raised her hand, and pushed, unleashing a shockwave. Boom, boom, boom. The carpet and wall lights in the corridor shattered, sending the inverted creature flying to the far end. Its strange limbs struggled fiercely in the shadows, then suddenly disappeared into the shadows. Lin Xian looked at Kiki and saw a look of urgency on her face, knowing that this thing might not be easy to deal with. Get out first. Lin Xian saw that the passage connected to the cinema's projection room and quickly tried to get to the street outside. While he could build heavy firepower like the Growler K-23 electric minigun, he couldn't instantly produce a Gatling gun weighing dozens of kilograms and hundreds of bullets in such a critical moment. It was daylight outside, so the strange creature wouldn't dare follow them out. Even if it wasn't afraid of sunlight, they could still run towards the train. 11:30 would definitely calm it down. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the two of them hurried out of the projection room corridor. But then, there was no sound behind them. The upside-down white creature didn't seem to be following them. Lin Xian's heart trembled. Just as he sensed something strange, he raised his flashlight and suddenly saw a man standing at the end of the corridor. The man stood motionless, gazing at them with a half-smile on his face. Who is it? Kiki said nothing. Seeing the strange appearance of the man, she raised her hand, ready to use her telekinesis to restrain him. Unexpectedly, the man's mouth suddenly opened wide, his face ripped apart. Reddish-brown tentacles continuously extended from his throat, lunging forward with a roar. Human ghost, Kiki grabbed the ghost mid-air. Lin Xian raised his hand and unleashed a surge of charged electricity, piercing its head. Puff. Ugh. The ghost screamed and roared, slamming to the ground. Lin Xian leaped forward and fired his wind gun directly at the ghost's head at close range. Puff. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. He pulled out his GK electric knife, activated the arc, and cleaved it open with a single blow. A gust of flesh and blood flew out, and instantly, Lin Xian and Kiki realized that this ghost was completely different from what they had seen in Dungeon 9. A thin layer of human skin covered it, but within that skin was a writhing monster, like a tangle of red worms. How could this monster be wearing human skin? Kiki exclaimed in surprise. So those people were skinned by this monster and disguised as humans. Lin Xian's expression was extremely solemn at this time, because before the tentacles of this thing stretched out, It was exactly the same as a normal person. This is more chilling than humans mutating into zombies or ghosts. If monsters become more and more like humans, the situation of humans will be even more terrible. At this time, Lin Xian suddenly realized something, and he immediately turned his head and cast his gaze on the woman he and Kiki had just rescued. Because he found that the woman seemed to have not struggled for a long time. The woman who had just struggled to escape was standing behind Kiki at this time, with a strange smile on her face. The corners of her mouth gradually turned upwards, and her face skin was lifted up, becoming gloomy and terrifying, becoming less and less like a human. Please vote for the new book monthly. The leader will add more chapters, and the monthly votes will add more chapters. Thank you to all the friends who support me. Chapter 185, Fake Person. A chill ran through Lin Xian's heart. That eerie smile made the hairs on his body stand on end. There was no time to shout. Just as the woman slowly opened her bloody, toothy maw, Lin Xian instinctively stepped forward to block Kiki, his ice wall and iron gate wielding frantically. In a split second, the icy wall condensed in the air slowly surrounded the piercing tentacle, its sharp teeth nearly piercing Lin Xian's heart. The next moment, a piercing sound of breaking air exploded in the corridor, accompanied by a surge of wind. A black spear shot past Lin Xian, piercing the woman's face directly. Ugh! Before she could even utter a shrill scream, the woman was pinned to the corridor wall by the spear. Thud! The black spear emitted a metallic hum, and the immense force of the weapon pierced the reinforced concrete wall. Bang! Just then, Lin Xian's ice and steel walls landed, the sound echoing through the corridor. Ah! Kiki cried out in surprise, and Lin Xian pulled her back a step. Responding, they turned and looked behind them, noticing two more people at the far end of the corridor. A man and a woman. The man was middle-aged, with a buzz cut and a sturdy build. He wore an active exoskeleton armor that shimmered with azure light and remained poised to strike. The woman, younger, held a large gun. Buzz! The man reached forward and waved his hand. An electromagnetic humming sound echoed, and the black spear embedded in the wall suddenly began to vibrate with the sound of a mechanical engine. With a whoosh, it detached from the woman's eerie face and flew back into the man's hand. Lin Xian's brow furrowed. Magnetic energy weapon. As expected, the black spear must contain some kind of sophisticated magnetic flight engine, capable of dynamic control within a small area. This technology is typically found in interstellar military battlefield drones and sentry installations, but its use on a cold weapon looks bizarre and absurd. Young man, be careful. These aren't human ghosts. They can shed human skin and disguise themselves as humans. Aside from being speechless, it's hard to tell the difference, the middle-aged man said in a low voice. Puppetry? Who are you? Lin Xian asked, his eyes flickering as he glanced at the female dummy whose door had been pierced. Bang! Before he could finish his words, the iron door of the screening room suddenly deformed and exploded. A sinister, long hand reached out, grabbed the middle-aged man, and pinned him against the wall. Snap, snap, snap. The other woman, reacting, raised her gun and opened fire on the upside-down white monster. Huh? The middle-aged man was pinned against the wall by a powerful blow. His chest exoskeleton collapsed slightly, sparking a shower of fire, absorbing the fatal damage for him. With a muffled roar, he raised his spear and aimed it at the monster's chest. The armor's mechanical amplifiers creaked, and then he thrust forward, burying the spear's tip directly into the monster's thick hide. Ugh! The upside-down monster opened its maw and screamed, raising its hand to deflect the black spear. The middle-aged man landed on the ground, rolled over, picked up the spear, and pulled away. Whoosh! A dazzling flash of lightning flashed across the corridor, striking the white upside-down monster in the face, sending sparks and a scorching smell of vibrations. Lightning! The middle-aged man observed the scene, his expression slightly changed. Lin Xian stood deep in the corridor. Kiki, standing behind him, flew overhead. Raising her hand, she unleashed an invisible telekinesis, grabbing the monster, its face pierced. Then, with a powerful swing of her hand, she pinned its head against a corridor wall. She dragged it along. With a crashing sound, a blood-soaked groove appeared in the wall, revealing the concrete and rebar. Ugh! The white monster shrieked, its neck suddenly spinning 360 degrees. 10 bone spurs sprouted from its extremely long claws, and it swung with all its might. Look out! The middle-aged man lunged at his female teammate. Crack! The bone spurs sliced through the wall like blades. Boom. Before he could even get up, Kiki's head was pinned back down, slamming into the floor. Lin Xian, Kiki gritted her teeth, hovering in the air, pinning the monster's head down. At that moment, the white monster's head landed on the ground, half of its body hunched up. Its head immobilized, its hands clawed at the middle-aged man and Lin Xian, one to the left and one to the right. Swoosh! At that moment, a flash of silver light flashed, creating an intense gust of wind in the corridor. A sharp opening appeared in the white monster's waist, perfect for a slash. A flash. Lin Xian, armed with his GK-03 electric knife, had limited use in the confined space, but he still managed to deliver a solid strike. But before Lin Xian could regain his balance, no blood splattered from the white monster's waist. Instead, countless black, willow-like tentacles extended from it, heading towards the direction Lin Xian had landed. A gust of wind blew from his side, and the sound of a mechanical engine echoed. Suddenly, the middle-aged man swept past Lin Xian, black spear in hand, leaping forward to meet the black tentacles and strike down with thunderous force. Puff! The black spear pierced the white monster's head and plunged fiercely into the floor. As the white monster still struggled, the middle-aged man, his eyes cold, twisted his spear in the opposite direction with both hands. Bang! The front of the spear suddenly expanded like an umbrella, instantly slicing the white monster's head apart like an umbrella flower. Black blood splattered against the corners of the wall. The white upside-down monster's claws, lashing out frantically, finally fell to the ground, silent. Whoosh whoosh! In an instant, the four people in the corridor stared intently at the monster, their rapid breathing the only sound in their ears. With a swish, the middle-aged man yanked his spear from the white monster's head, sheathed his umbrella blade, wiped the blood from his feet, watched the black smoke rise, and said, "This time, it's dead." With that, he picked up a level 2 strange blood essence from the white monster's side, put it in his pocket, and walked towards Lin Xian. Lightning and telekinesis, truly impressive. "I've underestimated you." The man extended his hand toward Lin Xian. Ding Qing, Duan Min, King Kong team, Lin Xian. Lin Xian sheathed his long sword and scrutinized the other man's power armor, instantly tempted. If he was right, Ding Qing's power armor was likely the TRP 4th generation special industrial active exoskeleton. This type of armor was extremely expensive, typically used for special operations. It boasted immense power and boasted more expansion modules than military-grade power armor. Ding Qing's armor must have undergone some weaponization improvements, making it appear quite formidable. "Hey!" Kiki's voice suddenly rang out, dropping from mid-air to Lin Xian's side, her face filled with indignation. "You just took the bead without even asking us." Ding Qing glanced at him, then said nothing. He then walked over to the two dead dummy figures, raised his rifle, opened the parapet, and thrust it directly into their chests. With a swoosh, he retracted the parapet, seemingly catching something, and pulled it out. Instantly, Lin Xian and Kiki saw a finger-sized, white, long-tailed parasite pried out from the pile of flesh and blood. He then produced 2 glass test tubes, inserted the parasites, and tightened the lids. He also found a parasite in the other test tube. Just as Lin Xian and Kiki were puzzled by his actions, Ding Qing tossed the 2 test tubes to Lin Xian. "I just saved your lives, and with these 2 bone worms, I'm taking advantage of you by getting a level 2 bead. I guess it's not like I'm taking advantage of you, right?" New book, please vote. Get on the infinite train. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 186 Bone Worm. "Hey, what's this?" Lin Xian frowned, picking up the glass test tube on his finger. He saw the worm inside, writhing weakly. "It's called a bone worm," the other woman, Duan Min, said. "Don't worry about the name. It's found in the spinal cord of these pseudo-humans. Having this thing on hand can effectively prevent pseudo-human invasions." Lin Xian looked at the two. "Have you been here long?" "Not long, about a week." Ding Qing kicked the dead white upside-down monster on the ground and said, "Just like you, I was chased here at night by a strange entity." "A week? It's so dangerous here, and you stayed that long?" Kiki looked puzzled. The woman was interrupted by Ding Qing before she could finish her sentence. "Let's talk outside. This dark place is very spooky. Who knows what kind of weird things might pop up." Ding Qing shook his spear and headed towards the emergency exit. Lin Xian and Kiki exchanged glances and followed. Bang! The cinema's fire door was kicked open, and Ding Qing, Lin Xian, and the other 3 emerged one after another. They all carried a strong smell of blood, reflecting the fierce battle they had just fought. The most troublesome thing about this unknown entity was its unknown methods. Although it wasn't very large, it was the fastest thing Lin Xian had ever seen. Its long arms and legs were like spiders, and it was in front of him in a split second, leaving the average person no time to react. The afternoon sun was blazing. On the street behind the cinema, a mountain bike was parked. It seemed they had arrived behind Lin Xian. "Where's your convoy?" Lin Xian asked, noticing the heavily armored SUV. "We found this temporary shelter ourselves, so there's no need to tell you the location." Dingqing smiled lightly, "But your train is quite impressive. We spotted you as soon as you arrived last night. You're quite cautious and didn't enter the town at night. Although you look young, you seem to be the leader." Kiki asked, "Were you the ones who lit the lamps in the town last night?" "How is that possible?" the woman named Duanmin said directly. "Do you think normal people would light lamps like that? Those are fake people, and at night, they would." Halfway through, she seemed to have some concerns and said, "Anyway, it's very dangerous at night. I advise you to leave here early." Lin Xian weighed a bottle of parasites in his hand. "Can I ask how you discovered the effect of this thing?" Dingqing looked at Lin Xian with a stern look, and got straight to the point. "Boy, you're all smart people, do I need to tell you?" "Oh," Kiki let out a long, drawn-out "oh, it's so dangerous here, and you've stayed here for a week. You must know why this place blocks out the night creatures, right?" Neither of them spoke. The answer was obvious, their motives were the same as Lin Xian's. Encountering such a strange place while fleeing, any normal person would seek the reason. If anything, compared to the dangers outside, this town at least hasn't seen a zombie riot or a car full of creatures. Dingqing didn't mince words, saying, "I urge you not to get too curious about the specifics. Leave if you can. You saw the danger just now. These pseudo-humans know no day or night, and there are those things hiding in the shadows. So if you really want to operate in this town, it's best to bring the bone worm with you. This is experience we've gained at the cost of several of our men." Lin Xian pondered. The sight of the monster in human skin just now truly frightening. Especially the female pseudo-person from before. He and Kiki didn't recognize her at all. The only thing they found a little strange was that the woman didn't speak. Not only that, there was not even a sound from her throat. Kiki also noticed that the thing's breathing and heartbeat were very strange. Now that he thought about it, it was probably not a heartbeat at all. "So are you guys going to leave here?" Lin Xian asked immediately when he saw Dingqing get in the car. Dingqing looked at Lin Xian with a scrutinizing gaze, paused, and then said, "Little brother, I know what you're thinking. You must think this town has something special that can protect it from the night strange body, but I tell you there isn't. But I know you won't believe me, so," he said, pointing in the direction of the chemical plant outside the town, "if you're really curious, you can go there and take a look, but don't blame me for not warning you, it's very dangerous there." After speaking, Dingqing gestured to the woman, and the engine of the mountain off-road vehicle started up, quickly disappearing around the corner of the street. "I thought they were the ones lighting the lights at night." "So, those candle lights are a bit strange," Kiki said. "But the strange thing is, who sent that message via the transponder, and who changed the track switches for us in advance?" Lin Xian looked towards the chemical plant. "We'll find out when we get there. You want to go take a look?" "Aren't you afraid of a trap?" Kiki asked curiously, looking at him. Lin Xian pulled out his communicator and contacted Chen Sixuan and Shuken. He synchronized the information about the dummy with them and immediately ordered Shuken and the building to rush over. He planned to investigate the chemical plant. He and Kiki had originally planned to go there to investigate, but the sudden appearance of the King Kong convoy and the dummy made Lin Xian wary of the situation. According to his nature, he would have immediately ordered the convoy to leave. However, Lin Xian was indeed concerned about the phenomenon that could block the strange entities in the night. "You can't believe everything they say." Lin Xian walked straight to the door of the cinema and found their motorcycle. "You figured it out too," Kiki said. Lin Xian said solemnly, "Could it be that the two of them suddenly appeared here just to save us?" He took out the two glass test tubes, looked at the slowly rolling parasites inside, and said, "If, as they said, this thing can prevent the invasion of pseudo-people, then they are also looking for or have looked for the secret of shielding strange bodies in the town." Lin Xian started the motorcycle and let Kiki sit in the back this time. He said, "It is impossible for anyone not to be curious about this phenomenon. There must be secrets in this town, But to be cautious, let's take advantage of daybreak and go over with a drone to investigate first. Kiki nodded. Well, insightful. I think so too. After that, she hugged Lin Xian's waist tightly and said loudly, "Driver, let's go. I never want to come to this kind of cinema again." As the motorcycle sped away. Atop the town's tallest clock tower, the glare of a telescope flickered faintly. The young man focused on the speeding motorcycle heading toward the freight terminal in the distance. He said into the intercom, "Brother Ding. It looks like they were heading to the chemical plant. This is the 4th batch this week, right? Did we warn them?" The voice on the other end of the intercom said hoarsely, "Let them go. Leave them alone. Now that they're here, they can't leave even if they want to. New book, please vote for me. Get on the infinite train. Thanks to all my friends for their support." Chapter 187 Lantern Flower. At 4:20 p.m., Lin Xian sped through the town streets on his motorcycle, heading towards the large chemical plant. Towering distillation towers and numerous silver storage tanks came into view. The vehicle, gliding over debris, entered through the plant's collapsed gates and emerged into an open area. Looking around, many areas within the plant were flooded with sewage. In some places, strange colored water flowed on the ground, and a pungent smell permeated the air. Shukin and Dalu also arrived from the other side in a jeep and drove through the plant's gates. "Captain Lin," Shukin took out a simply drawn map and said to Lin Xian, "We checked the area where the strange creatures retreated last night, and then we surveyed the several roads in and out of this town. We can basically confirm that there should be a circular area covering the entire U-town. If we are not mistaken, this chemical plant is the center." Lin Xian nodded when he heard this, and looked back at the huge distillation tower. "Then this should be here." Wu on the other side, Kiki had already debugged the drone, took off directly, and let the drone start flying along the chemical plant. The entire chemical plant was deserted. Kiki looked at the screen and said, "No one's in sight. Seems pretty normal." "No way." Lin Xian raised his hand, a gleam of light flashing, and conjured a small telescope, handing it to Shukin. "Shukin, find a high spot and keep an eye on it." "Okay." Shukin nodded, took it from Lin Xian, and immediately slung her Remington M96 across her back. With a single leap, she stepped onto a nearby concrete pillar and landed on the plant's raw material pipeline. Then, she quickly climbed up a high pylon. "Dalu, guard the gate in the way." "Okay, Brother Xian." Dalu took out his Gatling gun and headed for the door. After arranging everything, Lin Xian produced 2 gas masks and handed one to Kiki. After they both donned them, they headed towards the largest chemical workshop. "Hey, Lin Xian, did you scan that TRP power armor that guy was wearing earlier?" Kiki quickly followed. When she came across a spot with a strange liquid on the ground, she lightly took off and followed behind Lin Xian. "I'd like to, but I can't say it." "Bro, hold still. Let me touch you." "Okay, PFFT." Kiki couldn't help but laugh. "Ho, are you stupid? Why don't you just take advantage of him when he's not paying attention? Or, let me knock him out." Lin Xian was speechless. After all, Ding Qing and the other 2 had saved them. Even if they might have had ulterior motives, they wouldn't just attack them for no reason. Besides, that kind of power armor is quite complex, and scanning it would take a while. "Be careful, don't get distracted." Lin Xian didn't want to chat with Kiki. He was completely focused, observing his surroundings at all times. "By the way, why didn't you call that idiot who set the fire?" Kiki asked. "We're just here to scout. If we notice anything amiss, we'll leave immediately. There might be more than one convoy in this town, plus fake people and strange entities. It's more reliable to leave someone with special abilities behind." "Huh? Really? I thought you were worried about your teacher, Mr. Chen," Kiki quipped, seemingly unperturbed. Lin Xian wasn't expecting this girl to be in the mood to tease him in this situation. He said, almost laughing, "What? Are you jealous, Tisk? Eat your head." The 2 of them weaved around under numerous large pipes until they finally arrived at the building beneath the tallest distillation tower. A large iron door, inscribed with Initiator Workshop Number 1, came into view. It was ajar, a cold wind whistling incessantly, a hollow sound echoing out. "Go in and take a look. If anything's amiss, retreat immediately." Lin Xian's heart tightened. He removed the rifle from his back, raised his hand to create a small steel shield, and walked in. Suddenly, a gust of air rushed towards them. As they entered, they saw a massive metal mixing kettle in the air, a large yellow painted cantilevered crane in the sky, and below them, a sunken workshop filled with towering silver storage tanks. Many of the tanks had collapsed, their contents nearly one-third full of colorless liquid. The entire basement level looked like a bottomless black swimming pool. Although the liquid appeared colorless, Lin Xian didn't believe it was pure water. He walked to the storage tank next to him and took a look, his brows furrowed immediately. Wow, this is 70% tert-butyl hydroperoxide, Kiki asked. Do you recognize this? I learned it in high school chemistry. Lin Xian looked at the huge metal preparation kettle, his expression solemn. It should be used to prepare alkali solution. What do you mean? Is it very dangerous? Lin Xian looked at Kiki flying in the air. The tert-butyl hydroperoxide should not have leaked. That thing is flammable and explosive. Vibration and friction will also explode. If this pool is full of this, then this chemical plant would have been gone long ago. I guess it's all deposited rainwater or something else. But if the alkali solution preparation kettle on the top falls and hits the storage tank, everything within a kilometer radius will disappear. Kiki's face changed drastically when he heard this, and he looked at the huge metal preparation kettle nervously. Oh my god, it's so scary. Lin Xian was about to retreat when he suddenly spotted a faint orange light flickering behind the mixing kettle and storage tanks. He immediately took off running forward along the metal walkway. Kiki, noticing Lin Xian's movements, followed him at a rapid clip. As their perspective shifted, the orange object gradually became more visible. The two men's expressions grew more solemn as they ran. Now, they were seeing a bizarre plant several meters tall. It had sprouted from the chemical pool below. A thick, dark green stalk rose high and curved downward, adorned with a lantern-like flower, roughly 1 or 2 meters in diameter. The stamens, like layers of red buds, glowed faintly red. The lantern-like buds and leaves were orange, covered in fine lines. This enormous plant, nestled amidst a chemical solution, stood out strangely within the chemical plant, which was filled with metal tanks. Wow, such a huge flower! Kiki's eyes widened at the sight, and she couldn't help but exclaim, is this like our hull black chrysanthemum, a blood-curdling plant? Lin Xian's first reaction was the same as Kiki's. He took a breath and said, I thought so too, but, he stared intently at the flower before him. The red-orange glow took on an extremely eerie, chilling quality. And the presence of such a thing was indeed rather abrupt. But what? It looks like a plant, but not quite. Whether it was Lin Xian's or Kiki's imagination, they both felt the red-orange glow flicker, and the lantern flower slowly rise and fall. Kiki's face was grim as she stared blankly at the scene, muttering softly, is this flower breathing? Lin Xian felt goosebumps break out at the words, and he felt the same way. At that moment, a crisp sound emanated from his backpack. Lin Xian's heart tightened, a guess coming from his mind. He immediately unzipped the bag, quickly fashioned a metal clamp, and tossed out the 2 glass test tubes. With a snap, the tubes shattered, and 2 white parasites fell to the ground, motionless, seemingly dead. What's wrong? There's something strange about this thing. Lin Xian's face darkened, a sense of foreboding. Sure enough, under the crimson glow of the lantern flower, the 2 white parasites seemed to suddenly come alive, extending their claws and darting out into the deep pool of chemicals. New book, please vote. Get on board the infinite train. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 188 Big Parasite. Did that guy say it was to prevent the invasion of fake humans? Turns out he's a complete liar. Kiki immediately realized that the 2 parasites appearing in front of this giant lantern flower must be hiding something. Lin Xian acted decisively and addressed Kiki. Girl, hurry up, try to pull this flower up, okay? Kiki reached forward and grasped it, her invisible telekinesis extending to envelop the lantern flower. Unexpectedly, under her advanced telekinetic power, the lantern flower merely trembled, causing the tanks and chemical pool below to vibrate violently, rippling the water and creating a humming sound. At this moment, bubbles began to rise from the black chemical pool, gradually increasing in number until it began to boil. Lin Xian looked at Kiki and saw that her face was almost flushed. The tank below, strained by the invisible force, began to slightly deform. Stop pulling, he called out to Kiki. 70% tert-butyl hydroperoxide is a flammable and explosive chemical. Vibration and friction would cause problems. If she accidentally crushed the tank, even a 10-story steel door would be reduced to ash. Kiki's face was covered in sweat. Hearing Lin Xian's words, she could only pause and say, this flower has a well-developed root system. It's not just what we see. It's impossible to pull it. As he spoke, The boiling bubbles in the deep pool of chemicals began to grow. Just then, within sight of them, a white, humanoid figure slowly rose from the bottom. Their faces paled. It was, in fact, a skinned skeleton. The skeleton, drenched in the water, had turned a pale white, its flesh and internal organs exposed. It looked horrific. Then, an even more terrifying scene unfolded. More and more swollen, whitish flesh and bones began to float from the deep pool of chemicals. 10, 20, 50, 100, 300. So densely packed, from a distance, it looked like a pot of swollen, boiling porridge, giving goosebumps. Lin Xian and Kiki watched this scene with a sickening feeling. How could there be so many dead bodies in this chemical plant? Kiki's face turned pale as she fought back the urge to vomit. Lin Xian could imagine the horrible smell inside. If it weren't for the gas masks they were wearing, they would have likely fainted from the fumes. "Let's go," Lin Xian said without a word, preparing to retreat. He had already concluded that the town's ability to keep out the night terror was most likely due to the lantern flowers. If even a telekinetic psychic like Kiki, capable of telekinesis, couldn't handle it, it was only natural that others wouldn't be able to handle it in such a dangerous environment. Up to that moment, Lin Xian still believed the lantern flower was a blood-curdling plant, even contemplating discussing with Director Ding how to remove it. But the next moment, he completely abandoned this thought. Suddenly, within the deep pool of chemicals, hundreds of human bones rose to the surface, then slid down to the sides. Something seemed to be emerging from below. Rumble. The tremors, the roar of water, the sound of bodies falling into the water continued. Lin Xian and Kiki took one look and realized something was amiss, and they were already running. "Shuken building, prepare to evacuate," Lin Xian shouted over the communicator. Countless human bones fell into the pool, and then, a multi-meter-long, black tentacle, like a giant python, rose from the depths. From the front of the tentacle grew several humanoid tentacles, and in the center was a mouth covered in sharp teeth. "This lantern flower is alive," Kiki, soaring through the air, exclaimed at the sight and sped towards the gate. But the tentacle was far too long, and as if it had eyes, it shrank and curled in mid-air before barreling directly towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian, Kiki tried to use her supernatural powers to restrain the gigantic tentacle, but as soon as she made a move, she found she couldn't. Her hand was empty, and the giant tentacle was already hurtling towards Lin Xian. With a swish. In an instant, Lin Xian flung himself sideways, transforming into a silver after image and narrowly avoiding the tentacle. Boom! The tentacle, unwavering in momentum, pierced through the warehouse door in front of Lin Xian, blocking his path. Lin Xian, over there, Kiki, soaring through the air, immediately pointed to another emergency exit. "Be careful," Lin Xian, a look of terror on his face, shouted back at her. A second tentacle appeared behind Kiki. Buzz! A dull thud echoed through the vast chemical plant. Kiki was swallowed by the tentacle's mouthparts before she could react. Fortunately, she used her telekinesis to envelop her body, sending her flying like a balloon. "Girl, go up!" Lin Xian frantically ran toward the emergency door, while Kiki's escape was blocked by a second tentacle. Kiki, flung back into the air, regained her balance, her face pale. Seeing the direction Lin Xian pointed, she looked up and spotted a vent above. She nodded, "Okay, ding ding ding." At that moment, the lantern flower began to glow brightly. The countless white flesh and bones in the deep pool of chemicals suddenly came to life, their muscles twitching as they frantically climbed the wall, lunging towards Lin Xian. They were densely packed, like white, faceless zombies, dripping with water. Some were swollen and rotting, their flesh dissolving. "Damn it!" Lin Xian swung his hand back, and countless metal structures extended and formed, instantly creating a sprawling wall behind him, blocking the flesh and bone zombies. But the white skeletons ignored him and charged forward, their bodies ripped apart by the metal frames. Countless parasites burst from their flesh and quickly crawled towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian sprinted as the massive black tentacle at the distant gate swept across, destroying the gate and the wall. Bang! Seeing the security door about to be blocked, Lin Xian stomped his feet and executed another backward dodge. With a swish, a flash of silver light, he flew only a few meters before being struck by the black tentacle in midair, sending him flying. Lin Xian felt his world spinning, his body shattering. He rolled several times on the ground, nearly fainting. Rumble. Ringing in his ears, the sound blurring. In a trance, Lin Xian saw the darkening sky and the massive, upside-down white cooling tower. His entire body trembled with pain. He struggled to his feet, but two massive black tentacles thrashed and twitched in his sight. Beep. Beep. The beeping of his watch seemed to come closer, gradually becoming clearer in Lin Xian's mind. Suddenly, a powerful force dragged him backward. Lin Xian looked up and saw Shukin. "Captain Lin," she yelled, her Remington M96 rifle blasting furiously at the black tentacles. The Growler K-23 electric miniguns in the building also unleashed a furious barrage, shielding his escape. Lin Xian's consciousness gradually returned. He glanced around and finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Kiki escaping. "Retreat." Lin Xian immediately jumped to his feet and gave the order to retreat. Shukin fought and retreated, nimbly getting into the SUV. After the building, which was constantly firing, finished a round of bullets and followed suit, she got in the car. Lin Xian got on his motorcycle, let Kiki sit on the back seat, and immediately stepped on the accelerator. The rear wheel of the motorcycle spun violently, sending up a puff of white smoke, and they rushed madly out of the chemical plant. The last few days of the new book monthly ticket list are here. I beg for votes. Starting on the 29th, there will be a double monthly ticket promotion. Then there will be continuous updates. I'm currently working hard on writing. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 189 Territory. Boom boom boom. The huge noise was still coming from behind. As the off-road vehicle and motorcycle drove far away, the roar behind them gradually subsided. "Is everything okay?" Lin Xian pressed the communicator. "No problem," the voices of Shukin and the building came. At this time, the mysterious light of the dark tide on the skyline flashed by, and darkness instantly enveloped the entire town. Above the sky, a light rain began to fall. Several people's expressions immediately tense up. After the experience of the strange bodies crawling all over the train last night, their eyes were constantly fixed on the darkness around them. The lights of the off-road vehicle and the motorcycle sporadically cut through the darkness of the town streets, but surprisingly, no strange bodies attacked in the darkness. The whole street seemed quiet and deserted except for the roar of the engine. "Captain Lin, what was that just now?" Shukin's voice rang through the communicator. Lin Xian, panting rapidly, responded while speeding along on his bike. "If I'm not mistaken, the thing inside that chemical plant is a massive parasitic monster. It's not some blood-curdling plant, nor is it some special object capable of resisting strange entities. The reason those strange entities from outside can't get in is because this town is within a few kilometers. That's its territory." Shukin and Dalu's faces paled drastically upon hearing this in the SUV. Lin Xian cursed internally. That boneworm Ding Qing had given him earlier was definitely no good. He'd calculated that Ding Qing would definitely visit the chemical plant. While he'd verbally advised him against it, he'd deliberately kept secrets about the real situation inside. It was a perfect tactic to kill someone with a boro knife. Because this guy had rescued Kiki and had teamed up with him to kill the white, upside-down monster, Lin Xian, while skeptical about the parasite in the glass tube's ability to prevent the pseudo-human invasion, hadn't expressed it directly. Instead, he was about to return to have Director Ding investigate. Unexpectedly, something went wrong right away. "Captain Lin, be careful." At that moment, a voice rang out from the communicator. Lin Xian snapped back to reality, his eyes flickering as he immediately slammed the brakes on his motorcycle. The sound of brakes screeching in the street caused Lin Xian to stop, his gaze warily fixed on the small town's houses lining the road. He slowly lowered his gun. Dozens of dim candlelight flickered in the surrounding houses, just as they had seen from the drone the previous night. Strangely, the streets were silent, and the houses didn't seem occupied. Lin Xian released the brakes and slowly drove forward, his gaze scanning the lit windows. He noticed a dark figure standing in each of the candlelit windows. As he approached, the figure inside seemed to slowly approach the window. Lin Xian's pupils shrank, and in an instant, he saw an expressionless, pale man emerge from the shadows and stand by the window, staring blankly at him. Immediately, a strange smile formed on his lips. Pseudo-humans. Suddenly, Lin Xian felt a chill run through his body. Everyone looked up and saw figures begin to appear in the candlelit windows of the residential buildings lining the town streets. They were men and women, young and old, dressed like humans. Some were lifelike, while others had loose skin, revealing twisted red worms in the muscle tissue through the cracks. It looked eerie, as if the skin hadn't been properly applied. Hurry! The countless eerie gazes from the windows along the street cast a chill through Lin Xian. He stepped on the accelerator and sped out of town with the SUV. On the freight terminal platform in U-Town, the lights inside the Infinity train car were warm and clear. Chen Sixuan stood on the rooftop firing booth of car number 2, sniper rifle in hand, anxiously watching the approaching headlights. Shasha, Lu Xingjian, Miaolu, and the others were also outside, ready to provide cover. Buzz! The SUV and motorcycle quickly pulled onto the platform. The lift for car 11 had been lowered, and the building expertly maneuvered the car in. Lin Xian and Kiki followed suit on their motorcycles. Only after the lift was raised and the cockpit door closed did Lin Xian finally breathe a sigh of relief. "Are you all right?" Chen Sixuan asked nervously, exiting the firing cabin and closing the roof. Lin Xian glanced at the scrapes on his body and shook his head. It was a fluke. He glanced at the cars behind him and asked Chen Sixuan, "How about you?" "We found quite a bit in those warehouses," Shasha said. "We didn't encounter any monsters." Sister Chen said you encountered some kind of pseudo-human. "We were so scared we all ran to the car and waited for you to come back." Lin Xian nodded, feeling relieved. It seemed his judgment was correct. Such a strange and mysterious place shouldn't be explored by ordinary people with unknown combat capabilities. They would become cannon fodder, and besides causing more casualties, they wouldn't be of much help. "So what do we do now? It's getting dark. Should we leave?" Chen Sixuan asked worriedly. Hearing Lin Xian's words about the humanoid monster had sent a wave of unease through her, a fear even greater than that of the insect and spider-like creatures. Lin Xian took a few breaths, opened the window shade, and gazed out at the darkened platform and the outline of the town shrouded in darkness. With a solemn expression, he said, "Let's observe for a while. If the parasitic monster doesn't pursue us, our best option is to stay here until dawn. If it does, we'll leave immediately. Everyone, be ready. We could be leaving at any moment." "Okay," they responded. Lin Xian instructed Shukin and the others to check each car. Chen Sixuan went to the cockpit, opened the train's limits, and remained there, ready to depart at any moment. The night was bleak. The appearance of the pseudo-human stirred a flurry of discussion on the train, and an air of anxiety filled the train. Now, in this town filled with pseudo-humans and some kind of parasite, everyone stared at the darkness outside, feeling an even more eerie feeling than the previous night. Lin Xian came to the cockpit and saw Chen Sixuan sitting upright with anxiety on her face. He comforted her, "Don't be too nervous, we are still safe in the car. The girl and I encountered it during the day. Except for the big parasite in the chemical plant, the combat effectiveness of those pseudo-people is not strong. As long as we are more cautious, there should be no problem." "Well, I know," Chen Sixuan said with a worried look, "but I was thinking, if these things appear in other places, I don't know how many convoys will encounter them, and they can appear during the day." Lin Xian pondered and said, "Not necessarily. It seems that those pseudo-people are controlled by some kind of parasite. They should be related to the big weird body in the chemical plant. It is very likely that these things can only move within a certain range." "I hope so," Chen Sixuan nodded. "By the way, Director Ding seems to be busy with something. Do you want to go and see?" "I just want to find her." Regarding the issue of the parasite, Lin Xian felt that he should talk to Director Ding. But just as Lin Xian turned, Chen Sixuan behind him suddenly grabbed his wrist. "Lin Xian, look!" Lin Xian quickly turned around and saw a figure rapidly approaching from the darkness of the platform outside the cockpit window. Judging from its form, it didn't seem to be running, but rather floating. His face immediately changed color, and he prepared to attack, but the dark figure quickly appeared in the light of the car lights. A familiar face with an angry expression appeared in the side of Lin Xian and Chen Sixuan. It was Kiki. She quickly flew to the car window, her face pale, and angrily shouted at Lin Xian and Chen Sixuan from outside the car, "Lin Xian, you bastard, why didn't you wait for me to come back on my own? The last few days for the new book's monthly ticket list are here. I'm begging for votes. Starting on the 29th, there will be a double monthly ticket promotion. Then there will be continuous updates. I'm currently working hard on writing. Thank you for your support. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 Invasion. Lin Xian thought he must have misheard or seen things wrong. But then, who else could it be, floating outside the train window through telekinetic power but Kiki? Chen Sixuan, standing beside him, widened her eyes, as if she too had misjudged him, her mind going blank for a moment. Girl, it's me. What's wrong with you? Why did you leave me outside? Lin Xian's face was filled with disbelief. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but his expression gradually froze. If Kiki was outside, then who had returned to the train with him? Lin Xian frowned, suddenly turning and running towards carriage 1, directly towards the heterogeneous Rubik's Cube. Beep. Using non-mechanical force for reflex detection, train invaded by darkness detected. Instantly, a chill ran from the soles of his feet to the back of Lin Xian's head. Buzz! The heterogeneous Rubik's Cube's power surged, and suddenly, a terrifying roar, like the hollow cavities of a demon, came from the car ahead. Bang! 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 Then, the sound of 3 pistol shots echoed. Oh no, it's car number 3. Lin Xian's eyes were bloodshot as he rushed over. At the same time, the train operator opened the cockpit door and let Kiki in. The Kiki on the train was fake. Lin Xian's first concern was for Sasha and Director Ding. The gunshots from inside the train instantly alarmed everyone in the cars ahead and behind. Halfway through his charge, the bathroom door of car number 1 opened, and Sasha emerged, a look of terror on her face. Brother Lin, what's wrong? Lin Xian looked at the little girl, a sigh of relief. Without saying anything, he rushed straight to car number 3. Looking back now, it was indeed a little strange that Kiki hadn't said a word the entire way, sitting so quietly on the back of the motorcycle. But he couldn't understand. Aren't those fake people supposed to be disguised as human beings? If one of them took on Kiki's appearance, wouldn't it mean Kiki was already dead? These chaotic thoughts raced through Lin Xian's mind. He didn't have time to dwell on them. Arriving at carriage number 3, he saw some research equipment overturned on the ground, the scene a mess. A petite, white, fleshy human skeleton was writhing swiftly on the ground. Director Ding stood in the corner, pistol in hand. Though he appeared calm, his hand trembled slightly. It's a disguised parasite, Director Ding said. It wanted to attack me, but it seems more interested in the hell black chrysanthemum. Boom, boom, boom. Elsewhere, Lu Xingchen and the building rushed over. Lin Xian took one look at the swarm of white parasites crawling on the ground and shouted to Lu Xingchen, Brother Ho, burn them all. No problem. Lu Xingchen moved swiftly, his brows furrowed as he stepped forward and raised his hand to unleash a jet of flame. As if sensing the urgency of the situation, he didn't even bother calling out the name of his move. Boom. The scorching flames immediately engulfed the white, fleshy human skeleton and the parasite scattered across the ground. Lin Xian quickly pulled Director Ding over and raised an ice shield to block the attack. Disaster planned, but facing the raging fire, Ding Junai's first focus was on the blood-curdling plant. Leave it alone, Lin Xian restrained Ding Junai. At that moment, an invisible wave of telekinesis suddenly surged, suppressing the burgeoning flames, perfectly enveloping the white fleshy skeleton and preventing it from consuming the entire train. Kiki, pale-faced, appeared at the gate of carriage 3, raising a hand to quench the flames. The two of them worked together to incinerate the white parasites to ash. The fleshy skeleton struggled mightily, raising its arms and uttering a piercing roar. Its voice, like the raspy sound of a young girl, erupted in a foul-smelling smoke. In a moment, the fleshy skeleton ceased to move, charred into a single, charred fragment. Carriage 3 was now swirling with heat. The court personnel had gathered, watching the scene with a solemn expression. What's going on? Isn't she Kiki's sister? Sasha widened her eyes and looked at the charred corpse in fear, then looked at Kiki next to her. How is that possible? Kiki slapped her on the head. Your sister is here, can't you recognize her? I've loved you in vain, don't blame her, Ding Junai said at this time. I didn't react when she came in just now, how could it be? Shukin walked over and squatted beside the charred corpse, her brows puzzled. Aren't those fake people supposed to wear human skin? As she spoke, everyone's eyes fell on Kiki, and Lin Xian also looked at her. What's the matter? Didn't you see me at the chemical plant? Kiki was also a little confused at this time, and said anxiously, speaking of this, I wanted to say, after I flew out of the air vent, I actually saw you running back to the workshop, and I thought you had broken your head. I was so anxious that I rushed to save you, and was almost caught to death by the tentacles of that monster. As a result, I searched for you in the workshop for a long time, but I couldn't find you. When I came out, your car was gone, I thought," she said and glared at Lin Xian unhappily, but at this time she seemed to understand something, and immediately suppressed the grievance. Lin Xian frowned at this. "I didn't go back. After I got out, Shuken and the others dragged me away. I saw you outside and thought you were okay, so I left as soon as you got on the train." He paused, his gaze shifting. "I see, it must be those two bone worms." Bone worms? Lin Xian remained silent. He now opened the heterogeneous Rubik's Cube and scanned the train again. Ling. Using non-mechanical forces for reflex testing, test successful. No fear risk within the train. Dark side forces have been shielded. Phew. At this point, Lin Xian finally breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed the threat had been resolved. Everyone was puzzled. No one knew the function of the heterogeneous cube, and Lin Xian didn't have time to explain. He simply looked at Kiki and said, "You saw a fake me, and I saw a fake you. It's just the two of us. Apparently, two fake humans don't need human skin. If that's the case, then only those two bone worms could be responsible." Kiki's face twisted. "So, with those two things, can we imitate humans without skin? Maybe it's just temporary," Ding Junai said. "When I fired just now, I noticed her outer tissue was dissolving. It might not last long." Lin Xian took a deep breath and said nothing. Director Ding's speculation had some merit, but he felt it might be the suppressive power of the heterogeneous cube at work. As soon as he activated the heterogeneous cube, the flesh and bone creature's shrill cries began. Lin Xian looked at the hell-black chrysanthemum and noticed that its red glow had inexplicably intensified. He frowned. "By the way, you said it originally wanted to attack you, but suddenly turned to that hell-black chrysanthemum." "Yes," Ding Junai nodded. "While I'm not sure if this monster's primary purpose for sneaking onto the train was this planned, I do know that, given the circumstances, it was its primary target." "Then we're lucky," Lu Xingchen said. "At least it didn't cause any casualties or damage." Lin Xian glanced at the black, charred corpse on the ground. "Lantern flower, a pseudo-human invasion. Someone's trick nearly got us down." At that moment, a scream suddenly rang out from the train behind. Mialu's voice rang out over the communicator, "Captain Lin, there's an enemy outside." Lin Xian's heart tightened, and he quickly opened the train's sunshade. Instantly, everyone's expression paled as the once empty and dark freight platform outside the train was now filled with people. The last few days of the New Books monthly ticket list are here. Begging for votes. Starting on the 29th, there's a double vote promotion. I'll be updating continuously. I'm currently working on this. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 191 Surrounded. Boom. Beneath the darkness, the sky suddenly split open. A flash of silver lightning pierced the darkness, rumbling and echoing through the dark clouds above. A torrential rain poured down. A massive black armored train was parked at the freight station in Rain Town. On the platform, a strange array of figures suddenly appeared. They stood motionless in the rain, men and women, young and old, all gazing at the train. This scene made everyone on board gasp. Although these people appeared almost identical to ordinary humans from the outside, they all sensed a cold, lifeless aura, devoid of warmth. Some of their skin wrinkled unnaturally, others were stretched so tightly that their skin was strangely protruding. These people stared at the infinity, their lips slowly curling into a strange smile. Aboard the infinity, the air seemed to freeze as everyone watched these sudden figures. Raindrops pounded the armor plating, creating a humming sound. Lin Xian sensed something was amiss and quietly signaled the others with his eyes. Kiki, Chen Sixuan, Shuken, and the others all understood his intention. Immediately, Lin Xian slowly raised his right hand, preparing to make a fist. At that moment, the motionless people outside the train simultaneously opened their mouths. Beneath their seemingly ordinary faces, they all revealed gaping maws covered in sharp teeth, with a multitude of red tentacles extending from their throats. "Go!" Lin Xian shouted, clenching his fist. Bang! The infinity train jolted instantly. As Lin Xian's mechanical heart activated, the motors of the nuclear-powered electric locomotive began to hum, and the gas turbine locomotive roared. Woo! The train instantly started moving. Lin Xian shouted, "Get your weapons ready. Prepare to fight." Kiki took the lead, gritting her teeth, charging forward, unleashing her supernatural powers with all her might. Boom! A massive shockwave exploded, creating a hollow vacuum amid the torrential rain, instantly scattering the crowd on the platform. The others didn't hesitate. Shuken led her men straight to the rear carriages, while Lulu and Shasha grabbed their guns and ran to cars 2 and 5, respectively. Boom, boom, boom. Before the train could even pick up speed, a swarm of dummy humans burst out from the darkness. They swiftly climbed aboard, their tentacles clinging to the armor before extending their claws and frantically tearing at the plating. A portly dummy, its skin already dissolved, slowly climbed onto the roof of car 3. Red parasites streamed from its flesh like liquid, then began to burrow through the cracks in the roof armor, gnawing at the veneer. Swish, swish, swish. Fortunately, cars 3 and 4 were Col 3 biological research vehicles, built to the highest standards and perfectly airtight. Unlike the other passenger compartments, there were practically no cracks for them to penetrate. The red worms could only gnaw frantically at the outer metal, making a tingling, rustling sound. Ding Junai listened to the loud commotion on the train's roof. Her gaze shifted, as if she were contemplating something. The train pulled out of the freight station, a swarm of dummy figures clinging to the train. Chen Sixuan stood in the cockpit, her expression anxious. Lin Xian, it's nighttime now. If we leave, will it? I know, Lin Xian said, his eyes grim. I suspect our calamity plant has attracted the attention of those creatures. There's no other way, surrounded by the dark. Eerie forms in front and pursued by the dummy figures from behind. The threat level of the lantern-shaped flower in the small town was undoubtedly high. Lin Xian was in a dilemma. However, the dummy figure invasion had been so terrifying that for a moment he even thought Kiki was dead. Without time for reflection, he could only flee. Boom. In the carriage behind him, Kiki, already exhausted, ran palely towards carriage 3 and unleashed a shockwave directly at the roof. In an instant, the red parasites were all shaken away, and the fat mannequin, whose skin had already dissolved, was directly shaken into a milky white corpse fluid, which splashed on the track in the pouring rain, and the skeleton rolled off the roof. Thank you, Ding Junai said to her. Kiki took a breath, waved her hand, turned around and ran towards the cockpit again. Just now at the chemical plant, she had almost consumed most of her energy. Coupled with the daytime at the cinema, Kiki was now extremely tired. But now that the train rushed into the night, she had to stay focused, because what happened last night was likely to happen again. Buzz telekinesis pushed the 2 mannequins at the front of the car, and they fell onto the track and were instantly crushed by the wheels. Lin Xian, if we drive out, there will definitely be a lot of monsters, Kiki hurried over and said. I know, Lin Xian looked back at the pale-faced Kiki. I have equipped the weapon station with a round of ammunition. If we are surrounded later, you should seize the opportunity and blast a way out. Kiki reacted and nodded. Oh, yes, I almost forgot. Then I will deploy it quickly. In the cockpit, Chen Sixuan looked at the darkness ahead. We will be able to merge into the main orbit in 10 minutes, but I don't know if those things will follow us once we leave the scope of this town. If this small town is really the territory of the lantern monster, then they may not continue to chase us, Lin Xian said, but these dark creatures cannot be compared. As of now, our number 1 blood disaster plant must have some special attraction to these pseudo-human parasites, so we must be prepared for the worst. Chen Sixuan frowned slightly when he heard this. It sounds like the monster in the chemical plant you mentioned is like the mother of these pseudo-human parasites. It must be. Kiki patted her chest to calm down. Sister Chen, you didn't see how many skin bones we saw in the pool at the chemical plant. It was a terrifying sight. Lin Xian nodded. That thing can control these bones and flesh and chase us. That means the pseudo-humans in this town are probably connected to that monster. It's very likely the Matrix. Boom. Amidst the anxiety, the train suddenly jolted violently, as if pulled by something. The huge inertia caused the 3 people in the cockpit to lose their balance and almost fall. Kiki quickly raised her hand and used telekinesis to steady the 3 people, preventing them from falling onto the control panel. What's going on back there? Lin Xian shouted into the communicator. Brother Lin, there's a snake, Sasha shouted into the communicator. Boom. Before they could react, the headlights of the car ahead illuminated a massive, cylindrical shadow emerging from the trees, swiftly disappearing into the darkness. Lin Xian and Chen Sixuan both saw it, a monster as thick as a bucket. It was unclear whether it was a tentacle or a snake, and their length was completely unknown. Are we out of town already? Kiki exclaimed. Da da da, bang bang bang. Gunfire exploded in the darkness. The rear carriages were already exchanging fire. Squeak. Almost simultaneously, a series of terrifying screams echoed through the dark valley. Boom bang bang. The dummy in the rear carriage, clambering onto the outside of the car, didn't leave the scene either. It continued to climb onto the roof and the front of the car, simultaneously attacking the tentacles deep within the glowing grille armor plating. It's coming. Lin Xian's expression became serious. Speed up, rush out. Just when he was about to accelerate with all his strength, Ding Junai in white walked over quickly. She held the wall of the aisle and said to Lin Xian solemnly, "Lin Xian, I strongly suggest that we stop moving forward, otherwise, it may accelerate our demise. The new book monthly ticket list has the last few days. I beg for monthly tickets. Starting from the 29th, there will be a double monthly ticket event. At that time, there will be continuous updates. I am currently speeding up the typing. Thank you all for your support." Chapter 192 Serving. A heavy rainstorm. Raintown, under the darkness of the night, was cold and desolate. A train sped away from the distant valley, its lights flickering, its fate uncertain. In the town, on the streets, in dark alleys, and by windows, countless motionless, dummy figures stood. They were expressionless, like the mannequins in a shop, constantly sniffing out the scents of the night. Inside the cinema hall, crooked seats filled with human bones, quietly rotting in the darkness. Atop the town's clock tower, Ding Qing watched the departing train, his expression grim. "Brother Ding, there ran away." A young man holding a telescope next to him was named Luo Rui. He said with an unhappy look on his face, "I said we should seize the train while their backbones went to the chemical plant, but now it's too late." Before Ding Qing could speak, Duan Min on the other side said coldly, "One has lightning ability and the other has telekinesis ability. Both are tough guys. The parasitic pseudo-monsters in the chemical plant didn't even leave them alone, and you still want to rob their base camp. Then what should we do? That ghost thing is getting more and more violent. If we don't find some blood food for it, those pseudo-people will come to us." Duan Min's face darkened when he heard this and said, "Blood food. Blood food. For these people, we are almost no different from those parasites." Luo Rui was a little dissatisfied when he heard this. "Sister Duan, those people are greedy and want to die. What does it have to do with us? Did you also remind them that there was danger, but they insisted on going to see it?" "It's none of our business, okay?" Ding Qing impatiently interrupted the argument, his eyes darkening as he said, "Once they're here, they're doomed to fail. Even if they escape, the darkness will consume them. This is the ultimate fate of us humans. Ruzi, at daybreak, take your men and follow the tracks for a bit. We should be able to recover a good number of bodies." With that, Ding Qing turned and headed downstairs. From the clock tower down to the basement, beneath the cinema, there was what turned out to be an underground parking lot for civil air defense. It was now completely sealed off, with a few lights lit. Many ordinary survivors huddled together, some already asleep, others whispering, and families cooking simple meals on gas stoves. Looking around, the small parking lot seemed to hold over 100 people. "Brother Ding, have you eaten? I've made some soup," the woman cooking said enthusiastically as Ding Qing and his group approached. Ding Qing waved his hand. "Sister Wang, that's okay. Is it safe out there today?" a man among the survivors asked. "There's a lot of noise at the chemical plant again. Is there going to be a problem? I heard it's about to explode." People along the road gathered around, chattering. "It's fine for now," Ding Qing said. "Even if it explodes, it won't affect us here. Don't worry, that Captain Ding." Just then, an old woman stepped out and blocked Ding Qing's way. She looked at him anxiously and said, "Didn't they hear a trainload of people arrived? Are they all dead? My grandson said if they were, we'd be safe for a month, and we'd still have plenty to eat." At these words, many people looked over, some expectant, some with complicated expressions, and some staring silently, silent. "They're definitely dead," Luo Rui shouted, his face stern. "Grandma Zhou, don't worry. Tomorrow I'll bring the guys from the team back to move the stuff. If anyone's still alive, I'll shoot them." His words drew some agreement, while others struggled. Someone asked, "Who are they? If there's a train, can't it carry a lot of people?" The words didn't seem explicit, but everyone understood the underlying meaning. "What's the matter, Brother Zhang? You didn't think they'd take you on a run, did you?" Luo Rui sneered. "Think about it, if those people could withstand the darkness, why would they come to us? If I hadn't guided them in last night, everyone on that train would have died." As soon as he finished speaking, The others' gazes dimmed, and the atmosphere grew somewhat tense. Many people here had grown accustomed to living here, waiting for other unfortunate survivors to arrive and become blood food for the giant parasite, thus enjoying peace during the day and relative safety at night. At first, everyone remained silent, waiting for the survivors to arrive and die. But as the number of fake people in the town increased, the blood food became less and less sufficient for the giant parasite. Ding Twing's King Kong convoy actually took refuge here later, but after accepting the safety of the environment, the team began to have second thoughts. A small group led by Luo Rui began to fuel the situation, causing many survivors to die in this rain town. Ding Twing initially turned a blind eye, but later, Luo Rui began actively using the call system to guide nearby refugee groups into the town, attracting several powerful convoys. For example, Luo Rui had already ambushed the couple today near the cinema, but Ding Twing realized they were a formidable group. Fearing their team's exposure and potential counterattack, he and Duanmin took matters into their own hands, using parasites to deliver the two psychics into the host's mouth. Unexpectedly, Lin Xian and his companions escaped, indirectly proving his caution was justified. Given their abilities, Luo Rui's intervention would undoubtedly have been fatal. However, Luo Rui didn't see it that way. Driven by a frenzy of ruthlessness, he even used the strange entities and the massive parasite as his own means of survival. He believed that as long as he served the monster well, the town would remain a safe haven, save for the pseudo-humans, even after the onset of midnight. Ruzi, Ding Twing interrupted him coldly, "Stop talking nonsense and go stand guard. It's your turn tonight." Luo Rui curled his lips and nodded reluctantly. "Okay." Ding Twing then looked around and said, "There's been quite a commotion today. Everyone, please be quiet." Many people nodded in agreement. These people were basically ordinary people with little combat power. It was Ding Twing's convoy that had established a safe haven in this small town, so everyone recognized him. Back in the rest room, Duanmin saw that Ding Twing's face was not good, so she reached out and grabbed him. "Hubby, if Ruzi brings the train back, why don't we all go?" "Go? Where to?" Ding Twing sighed helplessly, looking helpless. "We've become the executioners of the night. Do we still have the courage to face it?" On the track, the infinity train sped through the valley. More and more strange creatures emerged from the darkness. The combatants on the train continued to pour out firepower, struggling to fight their way through those strange creatures. Back in the living quarters, Shuken shoved a teammate aside with her foot, helping him avoid a clawed hook thrust through a firing port. Then, she dodged, grabbed her Remington M96, quickly inserted it into the hole, and fired. Bang! The intense close-quarters fire instantly melted the tentacle. "Be careful," Shuken shouted. The male team member scrambled to his feet, his rifle in hand. "Thank you, Sister Kin," he said, sweat dripping from his forehead, before rejoining the battle. Shuken's expression was tense, her whole focus focused on resisting the surging waves outside. After emerging from Rain Town, the Infinity had faced an attack even more terrifying than the pseudo-humans, and she was filled with anxiety. Since crossing the Dazhu Plateau, the darkness here hadn't given them even a moment's respite. It was simply unbelievable. The last few days of the New Books monthly ticket list are here, and I'm begging for votes. Starting on the 29th, there's a double vote promotion, and I'll be updating continuously. I'm currently working on this project. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 193 Mark 5. Lulu's K-23 Growler electric rotary machine gun had long since emptied its ammunition, the barrel glowing red. He then picked up his original M556 light machine gun and resumed firing. Lu Xingchen stood in the middle of the carriage, opening the automatic door a crack and continuously spewing flames outward, igniting a large number of trees along the way. In the cockpit ahead, Lin Xian, Kiki, and Chen Sixuan were all puzzled by Ding Junai's words. "Stop, why?" Ding Junai didn't hesitate, picking up her mobile device and showing Lin Xian the newly recorded changes in the Hell Black Chrysanthemum. It's still unclear why those parasites are attracted to Blood Plague Plant number 1, but I think I've discovered the reason for this change in its red glow. Lin Xian's eyes narrowed as he watched on the screen. The red glow of the Hell Black Chrysanthemum suddenly increased dramatically, visible to the naked eye. Ding Junai said anxiously, "Since the lab records began, Blood Plague Plant number 1 has brightened 3 times, weakened once, and turned red 3 times. These were during our escapes from Underground City number 9, from Yuba Airport, and from Rain Town. Although these sampling standards aren't sufficient to draw rigorous experimental conclusions, this is a matter of life and death, so I'm making a bold guess based on the pack hunting effect. It's that these dark creatures mark prey they haven't killed with some invisible mark, and the red glow on the hell-black chrysanthemum is a manifestation of this mark, like the smell of blood in the forest, making us even more of a target for strange creatures in the dark of night. This kind of mark may be the way dark creatures communicate. Another possible situation is that the larger the strange body, the deeper the mark it will give us. If Yuba City can be explained by the group hunting effect, then we just came out of U-Town without adding any personnel. As soon as we left the territory of U-Town, the red light of the black chrysanthemum changed. At the same time, we were immediately besieged by a large number of dark creatures. So I think if we keep running away, this kind of mark will reach a certain level, and we may all suffer the same situation as the Fireline convoy and be wiped out. Ding Junai finished speaking in one breath, her eyes flashing slightly. With her rigorous character, it was not easy for her to come up with such a conclusion, with a lot of subjective tendencies. She also knew that if her argument was wrong and adopted by her teammates, it would most likely lead to the destruction of the entire car. After listening to her, the solemn expressions on Lin Xian and the other two people's faces deepened. Lin Xian frowned and said, "So you think the function of this hell-black chrysanthemum is to remind us humans?" Ding Junai said, "Not completely, it's just that this plant can absorb dark energy, which is enough to show that disaster plant number 1 has the ability to perceive dark energy. Based on this theory, the mark of dark creatures must be a kind of energy, but this is only one of them. Its other functions may have to wait for me to take samples to verify." Director Ding. Lin Xian looked solemn, and suddenly shouted to stop her argument, "Stop talking nonsense and tell me the conclusion directly." There was continuous artillery fire outside the car, and countless strange bodies swarmed up. The armored shield of the entire vehicle was undergoing severe tests all the time. Lin Xian was already anxious. In this situation, he had no patience to listen to Ding Junai's analytical logic. Lin Xian's angry shout made Ding Junai tremble all over. She looked at Lin Xian and opened her mouth in surprise, then her brows furrowed, and she said quickly, "There are two ways. The first is to stop the train and get rid of all the strange creatures around the train. Kill them all and clear the marks. The second is to return to U-Town and get rid of the big parasite and other parasitic pseudo-humans. I suggest that we choose the second option. From a biological point of view, creatures that need to use traps usually do not have strong defense capabilities or the ability to escape natural enemies. They are particularly vulnerable in nature, so they need to use traps or disguises to increase their chances of survival. The big parasite needs to hunt through division and reproduction and pseudo-human deception, and it has a fixed territory. This means that its combat threat level to humans is not necessarily higher than that of the strange creatures in the dark, and the troubles we are facing now are still endless. Compared to this, the success rate of Plan 2 will be higher." "I'm done." After hearing this, Kiki and Chen Sixuan both looked incredulous. They hurriedly looked at Lin Xian and saw that his expression was also extremely solemn. As the team leader, every decision directly impacted the team's survival. Ding Junai's deduction, while offering hope, undoubtedly presented Lin Xian with a nearly insane choice. Lin Xian's mind raced, his intuition telling him that Ding Junai's deduction about the mark was most likely correct. This not only explained the herd hunting effect, but also the changes in the hell-black chrysanthemum after leaving Rain Town. More importantly, Lin Xian had long harbored this suspicion. The giant white monster emerging from Jiang City, the crimson centipede that pursued it from Yushan to Biwen, the encounter with the sky jellyfish after escaping Dungeon 9, the immediate siege of the entire vehicle after escaping the Yuba anomaly. That included the Iron Guard Brigade, and the mountain-like atmospheric mica that pursued it all the way from Daluo Mountain to Yuba Airport. The hunter, the mark, and the crimson glow of the hell-black chrysanthemum became concrete in this moment. It all seemed to make perfect sense. He even recalled a conversation he had had with Kiki last night, where she casually mentioned that the team had no choice but to flee. The more they ran, the more monsters appeared, and the stronger they became. It was as if they were being targeted, with a bounty placed on their heads by the monsters of the night. The team's expansion was only superficial. The greater hidden danger lay in this mark on the team, which constantly amplified the danger in the darkness. According to this theory, the best way to stay safe at night was to eliminate the monsters they encountered and then enter a state of silence. This was actually quite counterintuitive, and many people wouldn't immediately consider it, or wouldn't have the opportunity to consider it. Creatures of darkness possess the ability to communicate with one another. And this communication was the hunter's mark. Squeak. In an instant, the infinity train slammed to the brakes, sending many of the strange entities that had collided with the train careening off due to inertia. A tidal wave of attacks began to surge from the sidecars. Everyone clung to the side of the train. Chen Sixuan looked at Lin Xian. The train's stop indicated that Lin Xian had made his choice. The engines roared, and before anyone could even catch their breath, the train was already moving in the opposite direction. Lin Xian, Chen Sixuan called out. Let's go back. Lin Xian glanced at Ding Junai. I think Director Ding is right. Ding Junai's eyes were burning. Without a word, she nodded at Lin Xian and turned to head for carriage 3. As a researcher, the only support she could offer was information and knowledge, and as a member of the team, this was her duty. The entire train suddenly reversed, catching everyone on board by surprise. At that moment, Lin Xian's voice rang out over the car's communicator. Everyone, get ready. We're heading back to U-Town. Don't save your ammunition. Kill every threat you encounter, got it? Shukin didn't know Lin Xian's intentions, but she had no doubts about his plan. Okay, Brother Lin, Sasha's voice echoed. Understood. Then shall we open the door and go out and fight? Lu Xingchen's voice echoed, sounding as if the fight wasn't going very well. We'll see what happens, Lin Xian said decisively. He then spurred the train into full gear, breaking through the obstacles behind him. Fortunately, he had specially built double-layer armor on the Gemini 11R nuclear-powered electric locomotive, providing considerable protection. Despite lacking an eye shield, its impact was still very formidable. Although he wasn't sure if Blue Star's biological theories would apply to those dark creatures, having chosen to trust Ding Junai, Lin Xian didn't hesitate. He already had a plan in mind. The last few days of the new book's monthly ticket list are up, so I'm begging for votes. Starting on the 29th, there will be a double monthly ticket promotion, and I'll be updating continuously. I'm currently working on the new book. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 194 Rape. Wow. On a rainy night, a black train raced through the valley, its gunfire illuminating the various bizarre monsters descending from the darkness. The roaring, tsunami-like momentum resembled something from a horror movie. Inside the train, those capable of combat fought with all their might, while some women helped carry ammunition. Da-da-da. Bullets rained down from the train, and torrential rain and blood splattered the train's armor, creating a scene of extraordinary devastation. But the monsters seemed endless, emerging from the darkness. As Director Ding had described, the infinity train was imbued with the scent of blood, attracting a multitude of dark creatures. Barely a dozen minutes later, the infinity train reappeared at the far end of the Yeshan freight station, its iron wheels roaring over the bodies of the previously deceased parasitic pseudo-humans, charging back with a bloody fury. Bang bang! As it entered a certain area near the platform, the strange forms in the darkness began to weaken as expected, gradually fading away, and the return fire from the train ceased. Lin Xian and the others stood by the window, watching the approaching dark platform, all braced for a fierce battle with the pseudo-humans. The PX-05 engineering robot had already assembled the 1130's ammunition supply chain, ready to fire at any moment. Strangely, after the heavy train returned, the freight platform, previously teeming with pseudo-human parasites, was completely silent. Aside from a few corpses and parasite fragments, only darkness remained. Everything was as quiet as before, just as it had been the night before. Strange. There were so many disgusting pseudo-humans just now, how come they've suddenly disappeared? Be careful. Lin Xian glanced around and picked up his communicator. Everyone, don't let your guard down. Prepare your ammunition. Beware of those parasite sneak attacks. Upon receiving Lin Xian's call, each carriage immediately began reloading and cleaning its firing ports. Everyone remained on edge, barely able to catch their breath. In the living carriage, no one spoke, everyone busied themselves in silence. Lin Xian and Kiki walked directly into carriage 3. The red glow of the hell-black chrysanthemum in the plant cultivation chamber was already glaring, giving off a truly ominous feeling of doom. Killing some of the parasites didn't diminish the red glow much. This marking must have been given to us by the largest creature in this territory. Ding Junai was closely watching the changes above. She turned back to Lin Xian and said solemnly, if we confirm this discovery could save many lives. Let's wait until we survive tomorrow. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He hadn't come back to play the savior and be a hero, but to ensure that everyone in this car could survive until tomorrow. So, the group hunting effect is also of some reference value, Kiki said. 2 waves of teams marked by a large number of dark creatures are combined together to bring more trouble. Then those large convoys, and even the Dawn Center of the Phoenix, will be in greater trouble. They didn't say the trouble is small. Lin Xian looked at the black chrysanthemum of hell. Didn't the Sky City King crash? I think the situation encountered by the Phoenix headquarters must be much more serious than we thought. The Phoenix can be said to be the strongest defense force left by mankind. With the Nightwalker organization and the Interstellar Army, I think it should still be able to fight. However, if this intelligence can be given, it will indeed allow humans to take some initiative, but we have to confirm it first. Lin Xian, what are you going to do? Kiki asked. Do you still remember the storage tank in the chemical plant? Lin Xian turned to look at her. If that thing explodes, it's no joke. Kiki's eyes slowly widened. Oh, you want to detonate the chemical plant? Lin Xian nodded. We just need to repair the mechanical cantilever, or install a remote control bomb directly on the metal cauldron on it, and it will be possible. However, this does not guarantee that the monster under the lantern flower can be killed. It may also completely enrage it. If you want to enrage it, then enrage it. I am very angry, Kiki said angrily. That thing almost prevented me from coming back, so it should be blown to death, but she said, then changed the subject and looked at Lin Xian. Logically speaking, Ding Qing from the King Kong team should have such means. They knew there was a monster there, so why didn't they just blow it up? Instead, they led us there to die. In the ocean, there is a kind of coral creature called sea anemone. Sea anemone has many venomous spines, but it cannot move and has limited hunting ability. On the other hand, there is a kind of fish called clownfish, which can cleverly avoid these venomous spines and survive by eating the digested residues of sea anemones. More importantly, the venomous spines of sea anemones can effectively protect clownfish from attacks by other creatures. This symbiotic relationship has gradually continued and evolved, so that clownfish can also be used as bait for sea anemones to prey on other fish. Ding Junai recorded the information while narrating. The situation in this town is very consistent with the biological nature of sea anemones. They have territories and prey through venomous spines and traps. Although they are very dangerous in themselves, night and day are much safer for us survivors than outside. Kiki frowned when he heard it. You mean, those people regard this place as a shelter? Want to coexist with those monsters? It's not impossible. Lin Xian remembered the message on the answering machine. Someone deliberately guided us in. Now it seems that it must be Ding Qing's gang. Saying there was danger and asking us to leave was just a cover. There were so many flesh and human bones in that cinema and the chemical plant. They must be the former residents of the town and the unlucky ones who later hid in this town but were eaten by the lantern flowers. Keek, there are fake people in this town, so scary. It is impossible that those fake people only attack us and not them. Kiki was a little puzzled. If that's the case, we're under siege now. What do you mean? Lin Xian walked to the window and looked at the dark platform outside. In the distance of the carriage, Shukin, Dalu Shasha and others were on high alert. He said, they dare not come out at night. I guess they have figured out some of the habits of the pseudo-humans and are hiding in shelters. Their situation is not much better than ours. Kiki nodded when he heard this, took a deep breath and said indignantly, yeah, then doesn't this group of people become traitors? Traitor, aren't human spies and running dogs of monsters traitors? Kiki said angrily. My words are rough but my point is true. Lin Xian looked at Ding Junai. Director Ding, you said that this big parasite does not have strong defense capabilities or the ability to escape natural enemies. You are applying the theory of blue star biology to this dark creature. We encountered it in the afternoon, and it doesn't look that easy to deal with. No matter what creature it is, survival and reproduction are the first elements. Ding Junai raised his glasses. This creature has taken root in this town and hunts by territories and traps. This shows that like the anemones of the Inthozoa, it does not have the ability to hunt in a mobile manner. Although parasites are very harmful, their bodies are very fragile before being parasitized. When we escaped just now, those pseudo-people were in a parasitic state and used human muscles and joint tissues to move. This also confirms my argument. Brothers, double monthly tickets have begun. Coke is begging for monthly tickets. Starting today, 5 chapters will be updated every day until January 1st, until all the manuscripts are released. These are the last few days of the new book period. Thank you all. Chapter 195, Killing. You're right, Lin Xian now deeply agreed. It was already dark after they escaped from the chemical plant, and the monster did not catch up. In addition, when Kiki wanted to pull out the lantern flower, he found that it had taken deep roots under the deep pool of the chemical storage tank. Although he didn't know how big its body was, after hearing what Ding Junai said, it was indeed consistent with the attributes of the coral family. So, what should we do next? If that's the case, those people must have set their sights on us when they see us coming back, Kiki said. Some people are causing trouble and will definitely not let us deal with the monster in the chemical plant easily, and we don't know how many waves of people they have. All waves are the same, Lin Xian said calmly. As long as we live in the town, we are all in the same boat. On the premise of having the same interests, our approach is to be enemies with them. Then what should we do? Kiki crossed his arms and said, although this town is not big, the enemy is in the dark and we are in the light. We have that big monster in the parasitic pseudo-human. If we have to guard against this wave of human rapists, I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to act. Lin Xian's eyes turned cold. Then find them first and get rid of them. Time passed by minute, and on the dark platform, it came to 8 o'clock in the evening. It seemed like the calm before the storm. There was no trace of the pseudo-human, and everything was quiet. The tense nerves of the people on the train relaxed considerably. Seeing this, Lin Xian had Kiki launch a drone for reconnaissance. After a sweep, they found no human figures around the freight terminal. The small town in the distance, still lit by scattered candlelight, seemed eerily quiet. It seems we were right to come back. At least we're safe for now. In car 2, Chen Sixuan breathed a sigh of relief and sat down on a stool. Shukin, Kiki, Dalu, Sasha, and Lu Xingchen had all gathered. Lin Xian went over the information he had just shared with everyone and discussed the next steps. If that's the case, if we don't deal with the monster at the chemical plant, the marks on our bodies will only increase as we flee, and will ultimately be devoured. Shukin frowned. So that's the root cause. Lu Xingchen clicked his tongue, folding his arms in thought. It seems the people in this town are well aware of this, so they've given up on escaping. Sasha retorted bluntly, it's not that complicated. They're just a bunch of cowards, afraid of death. They're so shameless to be in cahoots with the monsters of the night. Kiki nodded. That's right, we can't escape. Let's clean up this place and let them suffer the consequences. Lin Xian, what are your plans? Chen Sixuan looked at him. Everyone's eyes turned to him, waiting for his instructions. Choosing to return from the crisis and find some peace and quiet wasn't a rash decision. After listening to Director Ding's arguments, the others were all in agreement. Kiki is right. Right now, the enemy is in the dark, while we're in the light. And we have more than one enemy to face. However, we all share one thing, it's dark now. They're probably just as unable to do anything as we are. This gives us a night to rest and plan. After a long day of fighting, the team had expended a significant amount of ammunition. Kiki, Lu Xingchen, and the others also needed a break. Fortunately, the situation was now clearer to Lin Xian, so he didn't have to passively investigate. He could let the team rest and plan their actions. What's the plan? Everyone asked. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. Clean up. The purpose of our return this time is to save ourselves, so at daybreak we will split into 3 groups. I will lead the team to the chemical plant to install a remote-controlled bomb. Shukin and Brother Ho will lead the first group into the city to kill the fake people. The last group will stay on the train. Be careful of that group attacking our train. Chen Sixuan frowned slightly when she heard this. Just go into the town with fanfare to kill those monsters? Wouldn't it be too dangerous? It doesn't matter, I will take action. Lu Xingchen was not afraid at all, and said with a calm expression, this monster disguised as a human must be eliminated with my divine fire. Otherwise, I will burn down the whole city. What can God do about me, everyone? Lin Xian looked at Shukin with a deep gaze. In fact, killing as many parasites as possible is not the primary task. Your primary goal is to make a noise, and the bigger the noise, the better, to attract their attention. If you encounter that group of people taking action, you will retreat to avoid casualties. Contain. Lu Xingchen curled his eyebrows. That's fine, huh? Shukin was still mentally pondering how to deal with those fake people, but Lin Xian suddenly changed the subject. Aren't we going to kill them all? Lin Xian said, we need to capture the leader first. Even if we have to kill them all, we have to wait until we've killed the large parasite before slowly dealing with these smaller ones. Lin Xian didn't finish his words. Actually, he was thinking that if the large one could clear the Mark, there would be no need to deal with the smaller ones. Risking the team entering the building was extremely risky. The slightest mistake would result in heavy casualties. Besides, killing them wouldn't yield any blood essence or other benefits. It would be a complete waste of effort. If Ting Twing's group attacks you in the city, things will go much more smoothly at the chemical plant. This means they don't know our goal is to kill the large parasite. Lin Xian explained his thoughts. No one in their right mind would think that, right? Sasha said. Who would think we came back just to find that giant monster? Generally speaking, returning to fight a monster after finally escaping would sound bizarre. After all, in the eyes of survivors, it's tantamount to committing suicide, and there's no benefit. Right now, survivors around the world are running for their lives, and only a very few are aware of the existence of the mark. Not necessarily, Lin Xian said. Even if they don't know we came for the mark, that monster is the source of U-Town's ability to isolate strange entities. It's like a guardian angel to them. Do you think they'll take action? Yeah, that's right. These people are treacherous, Sasha quickly learned from Kiki, and now she cursed with indignation. Chen Sixuan nodded, understanding Lin Xian's idea, but also with a look of worry. He said, but Lin Xian, those pseudo-people should not be so easy to deal with. I'm worried about Shukin and the others. I know, as long as they don't enter the building, those pseudo-people are not too threatening. The most troublesome thing is disguise, Lin Xian said. After that, he raised his hand and a light flashed. A strange small device was created by him and handed it to Kiki. This is the voice print detection device of the Sentinel system. I separated it separately. The easiest way to deal with these pseudo-people is to detect their heartbeat response, which is completely different from that of humans. You will set up the sampling information later, and then Shukin and the others will be able to distinguish them remotely. Kiki's eyes lit up when he saw it, and he reached out to take it. Wow, you are so smart, why didn't I think of it? The breathing and heartbeat of that female pseudo-person are disordered. If you use this method, there is no need to risk identification at all. When Shukin and the others heard it, their morale was shocked, and they instantly felt confident. Okay, Captain Lin, I know what to do. Lin Xian nodded. One more thing, and that's maintaining communication within the team. That giant parasite also has a special kind of parasite that can temporarily transform into our own teammates using human flesh and bones. This could be a bit troublesome, so for safety's sake, everyone should stay connected so we can effectively deal with it. While the pseudo-humans are potentially very threatening, they're all disguised. As long as you have the means to detect them, it won't be that troublesome. Lin Xian was constantly considering various scenarios. Shukin nodded. I understand, guys, double monthly votes have begun. Kel begs for them. Starting today, we'll be releasing 5 chapters a day until January 1st, until all the manuscripts are gone. These are the last few days of the new book season. Thank you all. Chapter 196 Preparation. What about the chemical plant? Asked Kiki. It's the same as always, you and I, but in order to deal with emergencies, I will bring Lu Chang, Miaolu and a few others to cover us when necessary. Sasha glared at her. What about me, Brother Xian? At this time, Dalu also said, let me go with you to the chemical plant tomorrow. Lin Xian shook his head. No, I have an important task for you and your sister tomorrow. What task? Guard the car. Dalu was puzzled. Brother Xian, didn't you say it was dangerous over there? It's dangerous here too? Lin Xian's expression was meaningful. He lowered his head and kept making bullets and said, our target is someone else's base camp, but others may think so too. So Sasha, Dalu, you combine the close-in defense guns on the car to form the strongest firepower. If anyone wants to attack the car, just blow them to death. Dalu was stunned when he heard this. Sasha next to him clicked her tongue and poked her brother with her elbow. Stupid, Brother Lin means that this side of the car is also dangerous. Anyway, we just need to listen to Brother Lin's arrangements. Dalu nodded. Okay, Brother Xian, don't worry, I will definitely guard the car, and me. Seeing everyone already assigned, Chen Sixuan looked at Lin Xian with a somewhat gloomy expression. Are you still going to let me guard the train? Lin Xian raised his brow and looked at Chen Sixuan. No, Teacher Chen, you won't be guarding the train this time. He pointed to the warehouse not far from the freight station under the night sky. The roof of that warehouse is the highest point in this area. I need you to provide cover for all of us from there. Chen Sixuan's eyes lit up at this. Really? Yes, yeah, Sister Chen is going to be a sniper, Kiki said eagerly. This is your time to show your skills. Chen Sixuan looked at Lin Xian, nodded seriously, took a deep breath, and said, "Okay, I understand." This was the first time Lin Xian had assigned her combat work. For some reason, Chen Sixuan began to feel excited, completely forgetting the fear in the dark. At night, the entire Infinity train was sealed off. Except for the shift personnel, Lin Xian told everyone else to rest early. After a night's experience, he knew the platform wouldn't be invaded by alien entities from outside, and the King Kong convoy wouldn't come out at night to die. The only problem was the lurking pseudo-humans. However, from what he'd observed so far, they'd returned to town after the siege and hadn't been seen since. Furthermore, compared to alien entities, the biggest threat from these pseudo-humans came from human intrusion. Beyond that, their actual offensive power wasn't even comparable to the sea-level alien red centipede from North Bay, but with the Infinity's current defenses, they could still withstand it. In Carriage 1, Lin Xian took a hot shower. Such opportunities had been rare since leaving Jiang City. While restrooms had always been available on the Infinity, water was scarce, and with a long journey, there had been few opportunities. And after learning that the darkness had infected the world's water system, those opportunities became even rarer. Now that the car had the heterogeneous Rubik's Cube and Lin Xian's special water purification system, the water problem was largely solved. The women on the bus could now take a good shower, washing away the blood and hardship stained from their days and nights of running. After showering, Lin Xian pulled a heavy object from his locker and placed it on the table. He then opened his mechanical heart and began manually drawing a blueprint. On the table was a robotic arm that Shu Qin had removed from Guolaor's body when they entered Yuba-E City. Lin Xian had already scanned it. The blueprint was for the Creation Industrial HG55 mechanical prosthetic, left. This device wasn't particularly advanced, primarily intended for people with physical disabilities, capable of performing ordinary industrial activities. However, because it was industrial grade, it had relatively high torque and power, and its all-metal construction was durable. A regular person wearing it would be significantly more effective. Of course, it was far inferior to military-grade models in terms of flexibility, functionality, and combat effectiveness. However, Guolaor had illegally modified it on the black market to a weapon-grade design, making it a significant threat. Lin Xian used his mechanical heart to unlock a recessed groove on the arm, revealing a small metal bar. This was a miniature bomb. Lin Xian had tested it and determined it contained a high-energy explosive compound, likely a nitrogen anion salt. Given Lin Xian's skill level, creating such a bomb wouldn't be a problem, but he would need to design a simple mounting and detonation mechanism based on the metal preparation kettles found in the chemical plant. As for the mechanical cantilever, Lin Xian planned to scan or devour it. Repairing it would be time-consuming, so he could easily install it on the train later for off-board operations. By the way, that guy's TRP 4th generation special industrial active exoskeleton armor. I'd better find a way to get my hands on it. Lin Xian raised his hand, and the preparation center flashed with light. Countless materials were converted, and soon, a miniature bomb was created. With power armor, I can expand my weaponry. Then I won't have to rely on wind cannons and electrical surges to defeat the enemy. The upgrades to my research center's blueprints can also be developed around power armor. I could even equip Teacher Chen and the others with a set. Lin Xian's heart warmed slightly at the thought. He had initially regretted not having scanned any military power armor, but now, unexpectedly, he was delighted to encounter such advanced equipment in such a small town. After completing some preparations, Lin Xian arrived at Car 2 and checked the train's surroundings on the sentry system. Reassured that everything was in good condition, he returned to Car 1. Since Shu Qin and the others were on duty, he took advantage of the situation and rested for 4 hours. It was already past 2 a.m. when he woke up again. Teacher Chen, Kiki, and the others had already gone to bed. Lin Xian woke up the staff at the Sasha building, as well as Miaolu and Lu Chang, the skilled personnel in the following car, to prepare ammunition and let Shu Qin rest. But when he arrived at carriage number 3, he inexplicably heard a woman's murmuring and panting. He glanced around, but didn't see Director Ding. He immediately glanced towards the lounge, and sure enough, the sound came from inside. Suspicious, he walked over and was about to knock on the door when he heard Ling Junai's voice from inside. Wait a minute. After that, there was a slight rustling sound from inside, as if someone was getting dressed. A minute later, The door of the lounge opened, and Ding Junai stood at the door with a flushed face. She looked at Lin Xian. "What's going on?" Lin Xian frowned and looked at her. "According to your schedule, aren't you asleep at this time?" "Brothers, double monthly tickets have begun. Coke is begging for monthly tickets. Starting today, 5 chapters will be updated every day until January 1st, until all the manuscripts in stock are released. These are the last few days of the new book period. Thank you all. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197 Emotional Release. Ding Junai looked at Lin Xian, a hint of embarrassment flashing across her eyes. She then gathered her courage, took a deep breath, and said, "Do you want to sleep together?" "No." Lin Xian shook his head. Tonight, under such circumstances, he had no desire to think about matters of love and sex. "I heard some noise and thought you were in trouble, so I came to see." However, judging by Ding Junai's expression, that didn't seem to be the case. There was indeed something going on, but it seemed to be something rather private. Ding Junai's face flushed and her voice lowered a few decibels. "I'm sorry, I'm comforting myself. If I have affected you, I apologize and hope this will not make you have some prejudice against me." Lin Xian glared. "Huh?" Ding Junai adjusted her glasses and tried to speak to Lin Xian with a serious expression. "I think I told you before that dangerous life and death situations will give my body great pleasure. This is a way for me to release my stress and emotions regularly." As she spoke, she turned and walked in, took out a strange purple stick from the bed, and said to Lin Xian, "But don't worry, I am a very traditional woman in terms of relationships between men and women. Since I have had sex with you, I will unilaterally recognize that you are my only partner of the opposite sex. Considering that your current emotional state is not suitable for sexual activities, I solved it myself. I will pay attention to hygiene, but I am very sorry about the sound insulation of this lounge." "Then you are too traditional." Lin Xian's eyes twitched slightly. Looking at the purple stick in her hand, he suddenly felt a little familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it for a while. "Thank you. You don't have to worry that I will have physical or mental infidelity with you, because I have mental misophobia." Mental misophobia. Lin Xian felt her headache. The unlimited number gradually expanded. Everyone in the car had their own living area and private space. Except for Sasha, the rest were adults. These things were also human nature. He didn't know what to say. After thinking about it, he simply said to Ding Junai, "It's nothing. I just came to see if you were in danger. Also, I want to apologize for yelling at you before, because the situation was more urgent at the time." "No." Ding Junai looked at Lin Xian very seriously, and suddenly said in a heavier tone, "You can speak loudly to me, and I can accept being a little fierce. I will adapt to this way of communicating with you, because this feeling actually makes me very happy." "Damn, Iron am." Lin Xian opened his mouth, and his pupils shook and he was speechless. Ding Junai's words seemed to make him redefine tradition. He was really a little overwhelmed, so he quickly said, "Okay, then you'll rest first." After that, he ran away. Ding Junai watched him leave, her face burning. She touched her burning face, then covered her now frantically pounding heart, whispering, "You were so manly when you yelled at me." Lin Xian made his way to carriage 5 and took Luda, who was organizing weapons there, and Shasha to carriage 10, so that Shukin, who was on duty there, could rest. Shukin kept trying to refuse, but seeing how exhausted she looked, Lin Xian ignored her request and told her to sleep until morning. Before joining the Infinity, Shukin had been a lot of worry for the monster truck team. She had had very little sleep along the way, and she had been on edge for the past 2 days. With a special mission tomorrow, Shukin gave up and quickly went to bed. Inside carriage 11, Lin Xian began to manufacture bullets and ammunition. He also crafted a Thunderstorm A1 grenade launcher and had Shasha teach Miao Lu how to use it. Lin Xian observed Lu Chang and Miao Lu's physical abilities, noting that both he and Miao Lu had greatly improved, their speed and combat effectiveness nearly catching up to that of the yellow-haired member of the Black Crows. Lu Chang, in particular, despite his short stature, was incredibly fast and a skilled dasher. Lin Xian then crafted a GK-03 electric knife for him to use as a melee weapon for self-defense. However, while Lin Xian's electric knife didn't require recharging, Lu Chang's required a recharge from the train's power source. Miaolu and Lu Chang were overjoyed with their new weapons. "Wow, Captain Lin, your abilities are amazing," Miaolu said, excitedly eyeing the grenade launcher. Sasha beside him chuckled, "Of course. My brother Lin is the best. Let me teach you how to use it." Lu Chang stared at the sharp sword in his hand with wide eyes, swallowing hard. "Captain Lin, this sword looks quite extraordinary." Lin Xian pointed to a mechanism on the handle and said, "Try this." Lu Chang nodded and immediately flipped a switch. A faint hum of electricity began to emanate from the silver blade, and at the same time, the blade began to glow. Looking closer, a tiny arc of electricity flickered. "Amazing," Lu Chang's face burned. This thing would definitely be a magical weapon for close combat. In Car 12, a PX-05 engineering robot was continuously loading ammunition into the ammunition supply chain. Lin Xian was now the primary firepower provider for the entire vehicle. Tomorrow was bound to be a fierce battle, and he had to prepare for multiple scenarios. If the monster at the chemical plant turned out differently than expected and couldn't be destroyed by the chemical plant bomb alone, he might have to flee and rely on the vehicle's heavy firepower. If it weren't for the low level of current mechanical manufacturing, Lin Xian would have wanted to split himself up to operate it and spend time to build another electromagnetic railgun. The Infinity was quietly parked on the platform of Yuzhan. As time passed, the atmosphere of preparation for war in the carriage became stronger. Lin Xian sat in the carriage, constantly making bullets in his hands. At the same time, he was also controlling the loss of his own energy to maintain a good state. At 7 o'clock in the morning, after the dark tide receded, it was already dawn. Lin Xian came to carriage number 1 and found that Chen Sixuan had already put on the A33K heavy anti-material sniper rifle and was ready to get off the train. "Are you ready?" Lin Xian called her and looked at Chen Sixuan. He felt a little admiration in his heart. He had seen her growth along the way. Yet, Chen Sixuan nodded, her expression serious. "I just checked the surroundings. Kiki's drone also helped me scour the area. I should be fine." Lin Xian raised his hand, creating a telescope and handed it to her. "Okay, then be careful. If you get into danger, Shasha and the building will meet you in the car." "I know." Chen Sixuan looked at him. "You're the ones in the most danger. Don't worry about me." Lin Xian pointed to the communicator. "Okay, I'll communicate if there's anything." Chen Sixuan understood. Standing at the door of the cockpit, she took a deep breath, opened the door, and, with a massive gun slung over her shoulder, she sprinted towards the depths of the platform. She had already scouted the route and ran without looking back. She passed through the alleyway leading to the platform's warehouse, then entered through the back door, climbed up the fire escape, and reached a metal air vent. Seeing that it was locked, she pulled out the shock lock she had prepared and, with gritted her teeth, poked it hard. A crisp sound echoed through the warehouse, and the lock burst open. Chen Sixuan's eyes lit up with delight. She opened the air vent and took the sniper rifle to the roof. Then she nimbly escaped. Once on the roof, she closed the air vent door and climbed up to the wind tower. She then set up the rifle mount, adjusted her stance, and used the scope to measure the range and wind direction. She had learned these skills last night from a member of the convoy who had military sniping experience. Although they were simple techniques, Chen Sixuan studied them diligently and now, even for the first time, she was quite proficient in them. "Lin Xian, I'm ready." On the Infinity side, Lin Xian heard Chen Sixuan's voice over the communicator and looked up. A cool and composed female sniper appeared in his sight, breathtakingly beautiful. "Teacher Chen, you are really my goddess." Chen Sixuan's expression stabilized when she heard the voice in the communicator. Then she pressed the communicator and said in a deep voice, "Don't flirt during the mission, brothers, double monthly tickets have begun. Coke is begging for monthly tickets. Starting today, 5 chapters will be updated every day until January 1st, until all the manuscripts are released. These are the last few days of the new book period. Thank you all." Chapter 198 Clownfish. On the Infinity train, 3 cars pulled out of Car 11. Shukin and Lu Xingchen, leading a dozen or so people armed with weapons, headed along the main road toward Rain Town. Lin Xian, for greater mobility, built another motorcycle. He, Kiki, Lu Chang, and Miaolu split up and planned to drive around the outskirts of town, bypassing the main road to the chemical plant. Lu Da and Shasha, armed with heavy weapons, guarded the train. Also on board were Director Ding and some less capable logistics personnel. Shukin, Brother Ho, let me repeat, your mission is to create a disturbance. There are also some strange entities in those buildings, so be careful. If you're attacked by another convoy, quickly retreat to the train. I understand, roger that, Shukin said. Teacher Chen, you prioritize Shukin's convoy. If anything breaks out, open fire to provide support. Also, watch for any targets approaching the platform. Understood, Lu Xiaxia, the train's safety is in your hands. Shukin and I may retreat here at any time. If we're pursued, we'll need your covering fire. Lu Xiaxia was in car 2, monitoring the train's surroundings using the sentry system. On another screen, the 1130 fire control system wasn't activated yet, but it was online. Brother Lin, don't worry. Anyone who dares to attack our train will be blown to pieces by me and me. With that, Lin Xian mounted his motorcycle and headed for the platform's perimeter. Lu Chang and Miao Lu followed on their bikes, carrying a large box. The roar of engines roared from the platform, and the curtain of sunrise rose, shattering the city's tranquility. On a tall building in a small alley in Rain Town, Luo Rui sat on a recliner, watching the platform with a telescope. He clutched a can of fruit, looking quite relaxed. There's a road to heaven but you don't take it, there's no door to hell but you break in. Brother Ding's methods are still too gentle. If this kind of high-level psychic was fed blood food, we could have at least a month or two of peace. Click. There were 2 walkie-talkies in front of Luo Rui. He picked up one of them and called out, Fatty, Guo Sheng, what's the situation with the train now? At this time, a voice came from the walkie-talkie. Brother Rui, we've been watching it all night. There are a lot of carriages, but not many people. There are no more than 50 people at most. Excluding the elderly, the weak and the disabled, there are probably about 30 people. 3 cars just came out. Judging from their equipment, they should be the main force, with more than a dozen people. Their 2 bosses with superpowers rode motorcycles around the north line into the city, probably going to the chemical plant. Chemical plant, Luo Rui frowned. Ding Qing was right. There are no guns or cannons there, but they actually went there to be used as blood food. Brother Rui, their main force should have left. There should not be much strong firepower on the car. And judging from the battle situation, they probably suffered a lot of losses last night. The voice from the other end of the walkie-talkie. Luo Rui nodded. Some fake people have sneaked in. At least a few people will die. Brother Rui, what's the matter? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the guard said anxiously on the other end of the intercom. Why are you so anxious? Luo Rui picked up his binoculars and saw 3 cars speeding towards the town. He sneered, hide first and see what they do. We're in the dark and can deal with them at any time. Okay, soon. The guards hidden in various corners of Raintown began to focus their attention on the 3 vehicles, led by the armored vehicle. Just when the people thought they were coming for revenge, they found that the vehicles stopped at the edge of the street. Then, more than a dozen people got out and began searching the buildings along the street. Soon, there was a burst of gunfire, and a house burst into flames. Luo Rui watched the scene through the binoculars, his face filled with shock and confusion. Fuck, are these people crazy? Are they planning to hunt us down one by one, or are they looking for revenge against the fake people? The voice of the guard on the intercom was filled with surprise. What idiots, Luo Rui scoffed. I was wondering what they were rushing over here for. There are plenty of monsters in those houses. Isn't that just courting death? That's right. If they do this, I don't think these 10 or so people will last more than 2 hours. Luo Rui had assumed the people in the 3 cars were looking for a fight. After all, they tricked them yesterday. But he didn't expect them to just go and kill the fake people. This was completely baffling. They'd already plundered the town for resources, and searching house by house like this was a complete minefield. There were so many fake people they couldn't kill them all. It was a waste of ammunition. Seeing this, Luo Rui's eyes sharpened. He picked up the intercom and said, have teams 1 and 2 advance from the east and west. Guo Sheng will lead team 3 to circle around and blow up the tracks, blocking the road. Fatty will lead his men to exploit the vulnerability and throw in a few bomb worms. We'll grind slowly first and don't show our heads. The train's armor is very strong. Okay, Brother Rui, what if they still don't show their heads after dark? Luo Rui looked toward the chemical plant. Then we'll wait for Brother Ding. As long as their leader is dead and the tracks are blown up, we'll have no choice but to wait for death. Then it'll depend on whether the people on their trains want a comfortable or painful death. Roger, the order was given. and hidden in the corners of the town and the surrounding woods, a dozen vehicles and 40 or 50 people began to move out. They quietly moved from a small road toward the platform and surrounded it. An advance team, riding motorcycles and carrying explosives, sped towards the tracks in a circuitous manner. Elsewhere, Lin Xian rode his motorcycle quickly toward the chemical plant. A light mist rose from the morning after the heavy rain in Yu Town. Lin Xian gazed at the towering condensation tower, his heart sinking slightly. Lin Xian, you're right. Someone's coming toward the platform from the outskirts of town. Chen Sixuan's voice rang through the communicator. Lin Xian could hear a hint of nervousness in her voice and sternly said, "Keep an eye on them first. Don't expose yourself. Wait for my notification." Okay. Hidden on the rooftop of the warehouse, Chen Sixuan observed the convoy moving through the woods through her sniper scope. Her breathing became slightly rapid as she tried to calm herself. Everything around her seemed to grow quieter. The images in the scope, jittering from the distance, seemed to slow motion in her eyes. Even the driver's facial expressions as he spoke were clearly visible. Somehow, as she adjusted her breathing and her mindset, her mind quickly calmed. The nervousness and fear within her were subdued, and she savored this feeling of tranquility and focus. Elsewhere, as Lin Xian and Kiki's motorcycle approached the chemical plant, they noticed several heavily armed vehicles parked outside. Over a dozen armed personnel, armed with live ammunition, were stationed there. Ding Qing, clad in exoskeleton armor and holding a black spear, stood in the middle. The woman named Duanmin was also nearby, seemingly waiting for Lin Xian and the others to appear. "Sure enough, they're a bunch of clownfish," Lin Xian said gravely, observing the scene from afar. "Shall we just charge in?" Kiki slowly soared from the back of the motorcycle, raising her hand and unleashing a shockwave. Boom! The white mist suddenly parted, instantly clearing the surroundings. This attack, like divine intervention, caused the gunmen inside the chemical plant to raise their weapons in unison, aiming them at Kiki in midair. At this time, Ding Qing raised his hand to stop him. He looked at Lin Xian, his eyes changed, and he said loudly, "Since you have already left, why bother to come back, brothers? Double monthly tickets have begun. Kel begs for everyone's monthly tickets. Starting today, 5 chapters will be updated every day until January 1st, until all the manuscripts are released. These are the last few days of the new book period. Thank you all." Chapter 199 Information Toxins. Just as they were horrified, whoosh! An invisible force instantly snatched all their weapons from their hands, sending them flying into the air. Simultaneously, the guns began to turn their muzzles, pointing them in unison. Lin Xian, observing their movements, understood. He stopped his motorcycle and walked over. Raising his hand, he flipped over, and a large bulletproof pod, carrying a Growler K-23 electric minigun, descended directly in front of him. Lin Xian scanned the area and slapped his hand on the heated pod. "You've braved the darkness for so long, waiting? Do you think you can defeat me?" The gunmen's faces paled. They had never seen anyone pull out a heavy Gatling gun and a metal bulletproof pod out of thin air. "Don't waste your time with them, they're scoundrels." Kiki, arms folded, slowly descended from the sky, her eyes gleaming with light. Her telekinesis control had become increasingly precise. Disarming these ordinary firearms was a breeze. The offensive and defensive dynamics shifted instantly. Duanmin's face changed drastically, and the gun in her hand was taken away. She was obviously panicking. Ding Qing looked at this scene with a gloomy expression. "Bu Kui is a high-level supernatural system. Although I have seen your methods a long time ago, I still underestimated you." He looked at Lin Xian and said, "You escaped back and took the risk to come here. It seems that you also know the secret of this dark night curse. But I don't think that if you anger that guy, anyone in your team can get out of Yu Town alive." Lin Xian's heart moved slightly when he heard this. Sure enough, Ding Qing was not only a clownfish who was a big parasite, he also knew the existence of the mark. "What? Curse?" Kiki frowned. "So you knew it long ago and actually had here to harm others. I will see you." Bang! Kiki was about to strike when Lin Xian saw Ding Qing's eyes glare. A strange, faint sound suddenly erupted from the chemical plant behind him. Everyone felt the ground shake, and a puff of light orange smoke instantly emanated from Initiator Workshop Number 1, enveloping the entire plant. Instantly, all the gunmen around Ding Qing's side paled, collapsing in agony. Even Duanmin staggered to the ground. By the time Lin Xian realized Ding Qing's expression, it was too late. The puff of smoke instantly drained away his muscles, and the guns in the air clattered to the ground. Kiki leaned into Lin Xian's arms, her face pale as she asked, "Lin Xian, what's going on?" "My powers seem to have disappeared." Lin Xian felt his central nervous system begin to numb. He looked up at Ding Qing and saw that he was the only one still standing, though his face was also utterly pale. Squeak woo! At this moment, the sound of auxiliary motors echoed from the active exoskeleton, prompting Ding Qing to pick up a tube of unknown potion and thrust it directly into his neck. With a sizzle, veins throbbed as the potion was injected, his skin turning red, and a hint of understanding returned to his eyes. What kind of method was this? Lin Xian was stunned. A psychic? But now, all of Ding Qing's men, including the woman, had been struck. It was a complete suicidal move. After a moment, Ding Qing gritted his teeth in pain, his gaze stern at Lin Xian. "I know your psychics are powerful. Don't worry, you won't die just yet. A fatal attack on the stamens of that giant lice will release a dark creature's information toxin, paralyzing the central nervous system and suppressing psychic abilities. It's limited in range, but it's enough to deal with you." Lin Xian's eyes shifted, thinking, oh no, he hadn't expected such a method. He and Kiki had already immediately attacked and surrendered their weapons, but it seemed Ding Qing had premeditated this move, attacking everyone without distinction, intending to kill them both. Ding Qing used the power armor's auxiliary program to support himself and set up some emergency measures. Lin Xian estimated that even if he and Kiki killed all these people as soon as they entered, they would still be caught. There must be people lying in ambush outside the chemical plant to pick up the heads. It must be said that this person is really ruthless. But what he couldn't understand was that someone who is willing to become a monster clownfish must be a coward. How could he dare to put himself in such a risk? "Do you think we are just two people?" Lin Xian said at this time. "It doesn't matter." Ding Qing raised the black spear in his hand, his eyes fierce. "Didn't you try to escape from U-Town last night? Not to mention whether you have the ability to kill the giant monster lice. So many of my brothers will not let you succeed if they want to live here." What a lunatic. He actually regards monsters as guardian gods to harm humans. Kiki's chest was heaving rapidly at this time, and her state was extremely weak. She gritted her teeth and said, "He's even more hateful than those thugs." Kiki's words seemed to irritate Ding Qing. Ding Qing's face turned black, and he said angrily, "So what if he is a lunatic? So what if he is a running dog?" He pointed in the direction of U-Town. "There are 257 people here. In addition to the 66 people in our team, there are 191 ordinary people. They just want to live. What's wrong with them?" Lin Xian sneered. "So those who were lured to the town by you intentionally or unintentionally to feed the monsters as blood food are not ordinary people, nor are they innocent, right?" "Too much nonsense." Ding Qing, seemingly enraged by Lin Xian's words, his face darkened. "Cursed by the night, I can't survive anywhere. Since I'm going to die anyway, why come back? Dying on the road is more palatable than being skinned and transformed into a parasite by that monster, leaving me as a walking corpse." A gentle breeze blew, quickly dispersing the wisps of smoke. Just then, several of his men, lurking around the chemical plant, rushed to support them. Seeing this, Ding Qing took a deep breath, raised his spear, and looked at Lin Xian and Kiki. A hint of struggle and reluctance appeared in his eyes. "Sorry, little brothers, since you've come back to be blood food, you can't blame anyone else." A click. Ding Qing's active exoskeleton-powered armor roared, its amplification blasting. He was the only one here who could use it to maintain his balance and standing. He hurled his spear directly in Lin Xian's direction. With a sharp, piercing sound, it exploded into the air, accompanied by a surge of wind. The black spear flew towards Lin Xian like a black shuttle. Lin Xian, Kiki's face paled at the sight, and she lunged at Lin Xian, raising her hand to seize the black spear with all her might. But she couldn't mobilize her powers at all. Despair welled up in her, and as she stared at the incoming spear, she suddenly closed her eyes. A sharp, metallic sound rang out in her ears. And a gust of wind blew across her face. Unexpectedly, she pierced through her chest. Kiki's face paled as she opened her eyes, only to see the black spear's engine humming and stopping before her eyes. A mechanical arm suddenly appeared, gripping the tip of the spear, holding it tightly in place. With a creaking, humming sound, Lin Xian's HG-55 prosthetic arm, mounted on a holder, became like a third hand. "What?" Ding Qing was horrified, unable to react. Clatter, clatter, clatter. At this moment, A hail of gunfire erupted outside the chemical plant. Simultaneously, a dark figure, holding a glowing electric knife, charged directly into the midst of the supporting minions. Before Ding Quing's minions could react, they felt the bullets and knife flashes like fleeting shadows, and in an instant, they all fell to the ground, breathless. Lu Chang and Miao Lu. After they were done, the two quickly rushed in. Lu Chang simply raised his hand and threw the electric knife, which shot out immediately. Before Ding Quing could react, it had already pierced his chest. Brothers, double monthly tickets have begun. Coke is begging for your monthly tickets. Starting today, 5 chapters will be updated every day until January 1st, until all the manuscripts are released. These are the last few days of the new book period. Thank you all. Chapter 200 Firepower. At Yuzhen Station, the Infinity train quietly docked. Outside, a convoy of dozens of people had quietly entered the secluded woods, countless eyes fixed on the heavy black train. Several nimble gunmen had already scoured the perimeter of the platform, hiding behind buildings, and now completely surrounded the Infinity. Brother Rui, this train is incredibly heavily armored. There's not even a ventilation hole to be found. How did they get the bone worms in? A thin man at the front whispered into his walkie-talkie. It can't be without holes, or the people inside would suffocate to death. If they find a gap, the bone worms will be able to smell the human scent and crawl in. In the woods, Luo Rui dismounted from the train, observing with binoculars. Brother Rui, Guo Sheng and Team 3 are already ready on the tracks outside. Are you sure we don't want to go support Brother Ding? Another portly man's voice called out. No need. Luo Rui's face hardened, and he smiled. Brother Ding likes to be a good guy. I'll do this kind of family-destroying thing for him. He glanced at the train, his eyes slightly fixed. Initially, the King Kong team, led by Ding Quing, fled eastward with immense determination and courage. Countless nighttime escapes strengthened the group, sharing hardships and challenges, battling the darkness. However, perhaps over time, many grew numb to the relentless onslaught, and even Ding Quing himself began to doubt the team's survival. During this time, they arrived in Rain Town. Although the dummy humans initially caused some casualties, after a period of rest, they gradually discovered a difference. There were no endless waves of zombies, no uncanny entities surging through the darkness. By hiding in a shelter and learning to identify the dummy humans, the team could find a rare sense of safety and respite. However, soon, uncanny entities began to invade the town in the darkness. Just when everyone thought it was no longer safe, some survivors told them that if they dumped their bodies into the deep pool of the chemical plant, providing nutrients for the lantern flower, the uncanny entities would cease to appear. The caravan members, overjoyed at the discovery of this pattern, waited for the unforeseen survivors to die in the town. They would then loot the supplies carried by these unfortunate survivors and transport their bodies to the chemical plant, creating a symbiotic balance. The King Kong caravan, along with the original survivors, secured survival supplies in a safe environment, then took on the responsibility of feeding them blood food. Later, as the blood food dwindled, the caravan members' mentality subtly shifted. Led by Luo Rui, they began actively luring some of the survivors into the town. Initially, they told Ding Quing and Duan Min that their goal was to help those who encountered the strange entity at night find safety in the town. Whether they chose to leave during the day or enter to search for treasure was their own choice, and their deaths were irrelevant. Everyone knew this was just a self-deception, but as most developed a fear of the night and came to rely on its protection, everyone, including Ding Quing, seemed to acquiesce in this practice. It wasn't until Luo Rui began directly attacking the survivors entering the town that they realized they had become the executioners of the night. Therefore, the attack on the Infinity train was orchestrated by Luo Rui and his men. Following him, these men were driven to murder, ready to stop at nothing to survive in Rain Town. Everyone, get ready, Luo Rui picked up the intercom. Team 3 will blow up the tracks. Everyone open fire. Let's see how they react. If they fight back and run, we'll move in after they derail and overturn. Team 2 will guard the platform gate to prevent a counterattack from those entering the city. Roger that, Brother Rui. A flurry of movement. A network of encirclement quietly unfolded. The King Kong convoy's vehicles were equipped with heavy machine guns, rockets, and other weapons. They had fought their way through the battle, their members possessing considerable individual combat power, each one working in perfect harmony. On the Infinity, Lu Doi, armed with a Growler K-23 electric minigun, stared warily outside. In car 2, Luciacia watched the figures flickering through the trees on the screen, her brows knitted together. Brother Lin was right. These people are indeed coming directly to attack our train, but what are they doing? On the surveillance screen, the Infinity's Sentinel system, combined with its radar system and equipped with infrared and heat detection capabilities, made Luo Rui's team's stealthy movements seem like naked men. She activated the target detection function, allowing the Sentinel system to track their movements in advance. Shasha, Chen Sixuan's voice came over the communicator. They're approaching from the rear car. Sasha nodded and winked at Lu Yi. Lu Dai immediately headed towards car 11. I see them circling the front of the tracks. I think they were trying to sabotage them. Chen Sixuan slowly shifted the muzzle of her gun, peering into the distance, her finger on the trigger. Sister Chen, Sasha said quickly, don't shoot first, or they'll spot you and it'll be trouble. Chen Sixuan was stunned for a moment, then loosened her fingers. Okay, I almost got carried away, she thought for a moment, then said to Sasha and the others, let them bomb the tracks. They'll probably think blowing up the tracks will leave us with no escape, so they'll show up. Right, Sasha said. They'll definitely be on guard against Sister Shukin's return. Let's trap them here and catch them off guard, Chen Sixuan hummed softly. She had to admit that Sasha was a bit of a brat. She was so calm at such a young age, yet she was still trying to play catch in the face of an enemy siege. Seeing her teammates' composure, Chen Sixuan took a deep breath, remained silent, and focused her attention on the enemy's heavy weapons. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, deafening explosions echoed from the east and west sides of the platform, sending plumes of black smoke billowing, shaking even the windows. Brother Rui, it exploded. Hiding behind cover, Luo Rui and his men were closely watching the train on the platform. Upon hearing the explosion, everyone raised their weapons, awaiting Luo Rui's command to fire. Luo Rui's eyes narrowed, his face composed as he held the intercom, readying his men to fire. After several minutes, the train remained silent. He picked up his binoculars and peered towards the town, but no vehicles were approaching. What's going on? Did these guys call for help? The fat man asked. They're probably just waiting and watching, Luo Rui sneered. The road's closed. They can't escape. He picked up the intercom and said, Team 2, set up an ambush on the platform. Open fire as soon as they return. No one will survive. Understood. The group began moving toward the rear of the platform building. Meanwhile, Luo Rui returned to the car, removed an answering machine, and winked at a nearby operative. The operative, understanding immediately, stood up and unleashed a volley of bullets at the train. Da-da-da. Gunfire rang out, and the scene suddenly became heated. Luo Rui pressed the pager at this time. Listen up, everyone in the car, we have blown up the road, and your teammates can't come back. Now I give you 1 minute to open the door and surrender, otherwise we don't mind showing you our firepower, leaving the car but not the people. Brothers, double monthly tickets have begun. Kel begs for everyone's monthly tickets, starting today. 5 chapters will be updated every day until January 1st, until all the manuscripts are released. These are the last few days of the new book period. Thank you all. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.